Welcome, everyone. This is your friend, the DN What If, here with another exciting fanfiction. Today, we're diving into the story of What If Deku Adopted a Child with a Villainous Quirk? If you enjoy this video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more fanfiction content just like this. Now, let's get started with the fanfic. Midoriya was quirkless. He knew that. He hated that. Not that he was quirkless. That was just fate. He was just unlucky. He hated how everyone treated him like he was useless. His classmates treated him like a piece of sheet, like he was just there. Something to be bullied. Something to be thrown away and trashed. Something beneath them. All because he had an extra toe joint and lacked a superpower. The adults weren't much better, treating him like he was made of glass, like he would break any moment someone even laid a finger of him. He wasn't weak, damn it. He could take care of himself. His mom ignored him. He was quirkless. She didn't want to have a quirkless child. She provided for him, but that's all. She treated him like he didn't exist. That was good. He could be independent. His mom didn't care. He hated bullies. He was sure he wasn't the only one discriminated against because of quirks. People needed help. People with weak or useless quirks needed help. The quirkless needed help. He wasn't a wimp. He could be strong too even if he was quirkless. He needed to be strong. He wanted to prove his existence to himself. So when Midoriya found himself face to face with All Might, a person he admired all his life, just the tiniest bit more than Eraserhead, after he had defeated a villain near his school on his way home, he couldn't help himself. Then he, All Might, do you think a quirkless person could be a hero? The answer hit him. I'm sorry. I don't think that's a good idea. It's good to dream, but please, make it realistic. That statement shattered the boy. But that one small shard of hope, deep in his heart, shined the brightest. He couldn't be a hero? Then he won't be one. No one officially acknowledged by anyone anyway. He was smart, he liked to analyze quirks. He could do this. After all, he could only get arrested if he used a quirk, right? Aizawa sighed. He thought he had done a good job keeping a low profile. He was never mentioned in the media, very few police officers knew of him, it was annoying having to call in Tsukachi every time he showed his license to tell his subordinates that yes, he was a hero, and yes, he dressed like that on purpose, and yes, that was the point of an underground hero, being unknown. So when this crook he was stalking had been taken down by another person, he was surprised. There weren't any underground heroes that worked in his area, or wore so much green. That wasn't what surprised him. What surprised him was that the person had faced him after he had finished off the crook, waved, yelled, "Bye Eraserhead," and ran off into the darkness. He was caught in the end, right? Stop worrying about it. Yamada tried to encourage his friend. It's not the criminal. I didn't take him down. A person wearing green did it. Aizawa groaned. If he was an underground hero, why didn't Aizawa know of him? If he was a villain, why did he sound so happy to see him? How did he even know who he was? He was a vigilante then. The new vigilante was annoying. Incredibly annoying. Utterly annoying. Every single adjective the pro-hero knew was added in front of annoying, and his mental list kept growing. And he was so small. Almost like he was a child. He was even smaller than those kids he was teaching in UA. Damn it. He was worried. The kid looked like he knew what he was doing, but it would put Aizawa at ease to know that there weren't kids running around trying to be heroes. That meant he was going to have to find out who the heck this kid was. Midoriya was happy. He actually met Eraserhead. That was awesome. His classmates had bullied him again, but that wasn't enough to damp his spirits. Good, treat him like he was crap. One day karma was gonna get him. He only hoped he would be there to witness their eventual downfall. He had been training himself since he was 8. Ever since All Might said he couldn't be a hero. It was worth it. The exhilaration of being strong behind his peers' backs. The joy of knowing he was helping others. Being able to help the society even if it was just taking out purse snatchers or idiotic drunk villains. It was all worth it. The training, the pain, all the effort is put into this. Meeting Eraserhead on his 9th birthday was just the icing on the cake. Yup. He could actually live like this. His mother didn't care enough about him to check if he was sleeping or not. As long as he kept his grades up, he wouldn't have to bother anyone, or make his teachers suspicious. Midoriya glanced around as he heard sniffling. He was in his way home, and had checked out a hero fight just because it was nearby. He peeked into the alley next to him, eyes widening as he noticed a small boy with purple hair, sitting on the ground. He looked like he was crying, had bruises everywhere, and his clothes were dirty and smeared with dirt. Are you okay? Midoriya asked, carefully approaching the boy like he was a scared animal. In all fairness, he was just a toddler, and humans were technically animals if he took the official classification that humans were mammals and mammals were animals. The boy just looked at him, with large, purple eyes, before he turned away and tucked into a ball, backing away from the older boy until his back was pressed against the wall. Okay. I won't come close to you. But can you tell me if you're okay? The child just looked confused at the question. How old was he? 2? He was small. Very small. And most children were aware of their surroundings when they reached 6 to 7 months old. This kid was too young, too small, too vulnerable on his own. The child carefully slid over a piece of paper robotically. Almost like he didn't want to, but something in him was forcing him to do so. The poor kid looked so tired, like he was going to drop and pass out anytime soon. I'm sorry. I cannot take care of this child anymore. Adoption centers won't take in a person with a brainwashing quirk. Please give him the home and love that I, as a mother, failed to give. His name is Shinso Hitoshi. He's 1 year old and manifested a villainous quirk early. Take him in at your own risk. His father's a villain with the same quirk, and I'm sick of seeing the same purple eyes and hair grow up and turn into a villain as well. Please don't hurt him anymore because he did nothing wrong to deserve this fate, and he will turn into a villain one day. You don't want to become a target. The handwriting kept changing. The paper was crumpled. Almost like 2 people were fighting over who got to write, and they had ended up both writing the letter. He was getting really mixed signals. He did understand a few things. Shinso's mom wrote this. Her husband was a villain, and it literally drove her mad that her son looked like his father and ended up with the same quirk. Her motherly side and her angry, deranged side probably had a very bad disagreement about him, and she ended up with a split personality or something. They were fighting, probably ended up hurting the poor kid in the process, and she decided to leave the boy where hopefully someone would take him in. The date at the bottom of the letter suggested that the kid had been here for a few days. It was definitely not healthy for the child to have gone starving for so long, or possibly even longer. People with mental quirks were considerably smarter. While the bodies of peoples with physical quirks had adapted to allow the quirk to grow stronger, mental quirks weren't as straightforward as physical ones. They needed to brain capacity to understand the fine-tuning of their quirks, and to avoid the negative mental backlashes that came with it. They usually also had better memory so they don't forget how to use their quirk and give themselves a burst blood vessel in the brain cause they couldn't control their quirk. A normal child at this age would probably only know that he was abandoned. Shinso was probably too young to understand the true intent of his mother. All he knew and understand was that his quirk was bad, and his mom hated him for it and how he looked, and he felt sad about it. He understood and felt bad. He was inclined to give the letter even though it was probably the thing that kept him from being adopted because he wanted people to understand, as if he was trying to chase people away. It was a wonder he hasn't been kidnapped already. Midoriya empathized with him too much. Being quirkless, he was often treated like he was trash or just plain fragile. He was always getting pushed away, but his mother never raised a finger against him and chose to ignore him like he was a ghost or a specter. He was lucky that he still had a place to stay, and his mom just left him alone. He had it better than Shinso. At least he wasn't living on the streets. Shinso needed love. More love. If everyone he had ever met treated him like crap, all the more he had to shower this poor child with all the love and care and affection he could. He had tons of it to spare, but no one to spare it on. Until he found this poor kid. Midoriya placed the letter on the ground. Come here, Shinso. The child just looked so surprised. Someone wanted to take him in? The child shook his head. Me. But bad power. Midoriya knew he could literally just pick the child up off the ground, but he wanted him to come willingly. To understand that he wasn't bad because of his power. He didn't know how much the child knew, but if he was saying things like that, he probably knew a bit too much. It's not a bad power. You can choose how you want to use it. Come on. Shinso shook his head. For a 1-year-old, even with a mental quirk, this kid was smart and stubborn. Too stubborn. Midoriya liked smart. Midoriya slowly advanced, and Shinso just looked at him curiously and tiredly. Use your power on me. Shinso's eyes grew slightly larger and he shook his head even harder. No hurt. God damn it. He was just a kid. The baby. And he had to suffer like this, thinking he's hurt everyone? Midoriya was taking him in if that was the last thing he did. Shinso, you're not a bad person, okay? It doesn't matter what everyone tells you. You're a good child. You won't hurt anyone. Shinso wanted to believe that. He wanted to, so badly. But that nagging feeling deep within him wouldn't let him. He remembered the last thing his mom told him before she dumped him on the ground in a cardboard box. No one would want a little villain like you. He had no idea what a villain was. But he knew it was bad. He was bad. That's why no one wanted him. Midoriya stopped moving. His eyes glazed over. Shinso panicked. He used his quirk. By accident. His power was bad. It was bad, it was so bad, it was bad. The strain on his mind was too much. It hurt too much. He tried to stand, and felt his legs wobble before everything turned black. He passed out. Midoriya blinked when the haze over his mind disappeared. He noticed Shinso was lying on the ground, and he panicked. How the heck do you deal with a child that passed out? He was 10 for goodness sake. He was smart, but he was no parent. He wasn't a doctor. Hopefully the child was just tired. Hopefully. Midoriya scooped up the child in his arms and slowly exited the alleyway. You know, I don't think that's a good idea. A man said. Midoriya just frowned and faced the man. I know he's a kid, but all of us around here saw the note. A brainwashing quirk is dangerous. Nothing good will come out of taking a child like that home. I'm just warning you. Look, sir. I understand you're warning me out of the goodness of your heart. The man flinched at Midoriya's sarcasm, but he's a child. It wasn't his fault he was born with a quirk like this, and I'm sure I can land you in jail or at least a fine for quirk discrimination against what's practically a baby. So run along, and I'll forget I met a person who practically just called a child a villain for having a quirk that he had no power over choosing. Shinso slowly opened his eyes. His body wasn't against the cold, hard ground. To us. And there was something fluffy. The fluffy thing was green. It ticked his nose and he sneezed. Midoriya shot awake and sat up straight, looking around him warily, before his eyes settled on the child on his bed. Phew. You're awake, Shinso. Shinso just looked at him curiously as he sat up. He felt refreshed. He hadn't felt like that in a long time. So, sorry I just brought you into my home and you kinda passed out and I panicked and I didn't know what to do, so I just decided to bring you here cause I understand what you're feeling and the world really ain't fair and I really like you and I want you to be safe and I think you deserve to have a home and be loved and... Shinso literally lost him as he started rambling on and on. But he understood on thing. The boy know how he felt. He understood. He wanted to take him in. Despite Shinso using his quirk on him by accident. Power. Midoriya gave the small child a grin. You used your quirk and nothing bad happened. Shinso had no idea how to react. People don't accept him for his quirk. Never did when he used it by accident. But why was he so nice? Shinso, please. I don't know it, you know what I'm talking about, but the world is wrong. You were never bad, okay? He placed his hands on Shinso's shoulders, and the child couldn't stop that warm feeling travel up his arms and warm his entire body. He liked the warmth. He wanted the warmth. Midoriya knew how to read people. He had to, in order to predict his opponent's moves. Shinso was as easy to read as an open book, and Midoriya pulled the boy in for a hug. Shinso didn't protest. He liked it. He missed the warmth. He missed the feeling of someone caring about him. He missed the feeling of someone loving him. He wanted to cry, but crying was bad. That was what his mom said. He didn't want to be bad. He was good, right? I know how you feel. You think crying is bad. Shinso just tried to blink the tears out of his eyes. I used to cry a lot too when I was younger. Did? And he was so nice. He wasn't bad. It's okay to cry. Crying isn't bad. It's natural to want to cry. I feel like crying too, so it's fine. That was true. Midoriya wanted to cry. But he had forced that side of him aside for so long. He'd forgotten how to cry. Getting teased for crying. Getting bullied for crying. You hypocrite. You stopped crying long ago. Crying is a sign of weakness. Shinso didn't need to live like that. No one will hurt you for crying. No one will blame you for crying. As long as you're with me, crying will never be bad. The floodgates broke, and Shinso burst into tears, crying into the older boy's shirt. He was wanted. Someone wanted him. He was good. He wasn't bad. That was all Shinso wanted. Midoriya had been 10 when he adopted Shinso. Shinso was smart. Midoriya would be loving this child more and more, if he wasn't already loving the child with every ounce of love he could give him. It's been a few months since Midoriya took Shinso in, and both of them were just really happy. Being in elementary school, Midoriya didn't have stuff that was too hard for him to handle. He finished all his homework easily, and spent the rest of his time trying to teach Shinso. Midoriya was very happy with Shinso's progress. He knew how to walk when he was found, albeit shakily, but within a few months he was running around the room and jumping on Midoriya's bed. Shinso started off having problems pronouncing Midoriya's last name, so Midoriya just told him to call him Izuku, which ended up become Aizu. Shinso really liked to call him Aizu. He found that Midoriya really liked it, so he kept calling him that. In turn, Midoriya called him Toshi. Shinso liked the nickname. Both of them were really happy, and they sometimes ended up just having a rally of calling the other's nickname until one of them gave up. Midoriya always relented, letting Shinso win, and the both of them just flopped on the bed and laughed. Midoriya was right that people with mental quirks were smarter. Shinso knew how to write. It was messy, but it was legible. A lot better than what he could say about his own classmates. A child had better handwriting than a bunch of 10-year-olds. Shinso didn't know when his birthday was. Midoriya was thinking of putting down the date he was found as his birthday, which was exactly 2 weeks before his own when they realized the birthday problem. They could celebrate both their birthdays at the same, right smack in the middle of both their birthday dates. Shinso already knew about Midoriya's status when Midoriya told him about it. Shinso knew that people had powers. He knew he had his powers early. He did not know that Midoriya did not have the powers that everyone else had. Did that stop him from loving the only person that he loved? Nope. Nah. Never ever. And somehow, Shinso also found out that Midoriya liked to sneak out of the house at night and return when he's usually asleep. Shinso knew the boy was busy, but he never really questioned how. He was a kid. He had questioned the older boy out of curiosity, of course, before Midoriya just told him, "Someone told me to stop dreaming. So I'm pulling everyone into my dream." And Shinso accepted it. They both had dreams. They both wanted to be heroes. Midoriya told him about Eraserhead, one of the heroes who fought quirkless but was still accepted by society. They both wanted to be like him. All Might was definitely out of the question. Midoriya didn't like how easily he almost shattered his dream. In fact, if he wasn't quirkless, or was someone else, he was sure he might have turned to the dark side. That was pretty ironic. Hey, it's the quirkless Deku again. Tsubasa laughed. Bakugo and Akiro, the boy with a quirk that allowed him to extend his fingers, but Bakugo just looked a bit worried for Midoriya. Midoriya had no idea what was it to Bakugo. Bakugo liked to blast him, but didn't want to hurt him? It was confusing. Midoriya didn't really get it. Midoriya internally seethed, before he realized, what if Shinso was with him? Was he going to roll over and let his little brothers see how weak he was? No way. Tsubasa stretched out his wings and rushed forward to attack Midoriya, but Midoriya just braced himself, grabbed the boy by the wings, and flipped him over, smashing him into the ground. Akiro tried to rush in to help Tsubasa, but Midoriya just grabbed his finger, pulled, and grabbed the boy's arm, also flipping him over completely. Bakugo looked oddly relieved. "Nah, I suggest you leave me alone. I can do so much worse to you." Midoriya grinned, his eyes glinting dangerously at the two boys. Sheet. Deku's lost it. Tsubasa, we need to warn the others. Akiro yelped, helping the winged boy up as they limped away. So, you finally got the guts to fight back, huh? Bakugo smiled at him. Finally. I always was able to fight back. I just decided to show it now. What do you mean, finally? I was waiting for you to finally start fighting back, fucker. You can't be a hero if you let MFANG beat you up. Kaken. Stop swearing. Seriously. And you could have just told me instead of making flashy explosions that literally never hurt me. Midoriya rolled his eyes. I could. Bakugo looked genuinely confused. My mom always hits me when she wants to tell me something. So I thought it'd work with you. Midoriya sighed. The Bakugo family was a whole new problem. Let's start with you not swearing. It's bad. Shut up, FING Deku. Just because you FING finally decided to fight back doesn't mean you're better than me, Deku. I'll be number 1. Yeah. Midoriya smiled at him sadly. You're not supposed to agree with me, FING idiot. Did you FA forget what we said when we were younger? Bakugo roared. I didn't forget. I'm quirkless. There's no way I can even think to compete with you, Kaken. Midoriya sighed. You'll be number 1. I'll be in the top 5 for sure. Better not to forget that, nerd. Bakugo gave a toothy grin, though it was more friendly than malicious. Aizawa was concerned. He and Yamada were walking back to UA for some impromptu meeting in the evening, and there was a mugger cornering a boy with a sleeveless green hoodie. Before either of them could react, a blur of green smashed into him, and the mugger went sprawling, knocked out cold. That's for trying to mug me, idiot. Midoriya huffed before he noticed the two adults. You two all right? Midoriya asked, and it dawned on Aizawa that this was the kid he had seen that day. He was small. How? He looked like he was in freaking elementary school. And why were his arms covered in bandages, for God's sake? Wait. Oh my God, it's Eraserhead and Present Mike. He screeched. Yeah. Aizawa was both scared for and of this kid. How the heck did he recognize Yamada while in his civilian outfit? Aizawa had no idea. Having knowledge like that was scary. Wait up, kid. Aizawa yelled, but Midoriya had already climbed up the ladder, up to the roof, and all Aizawa saw was him climbing onto the roof before running off. Aizawa immediately leapt after him to give chase, but once he got to the roof, any sign of the child was gone. I definitely know why you're so worried about this kid. Yamada nodded. I thought you were hallucinating that time from your coffee overdrive. We need to talk to Nizu about this. That kid doesn't seem to be any older than 12. So, there's a child wearing a green sleeveless hoodie, with bandages on his arms, and he's fighting off muggers. Nizu raised an eyebrow. Aizawa wasn't sure if it was in disbelief or because he was interested. Aizawa and Yamada both nodded. I've heard rumors of a new vigilante running around that matches your description. I'll see what I can find. Things were going well. But Shinso was at the age to consider going to preschool, and Midoriya was starting middle school in a year. Midoriya decided that Shinso needed to learn to interact with people other than himself, but didn't want to bother his mom for money. It was already nice enough of her to not complain that he was housing a child and just kept on ignoring them. That was okay. They had each other. Midoriya had never told anyone about Shinso, scared that his bullies would somehow lay a hand on his precious little brother. Inko treated Midoriya like a stranger. That meant that Midoriya literally had to earn his own food by cleaning the house ever since he was declared quirkless. But Shinso was growing, and Midoriya knew that while he himself might be happy with a bowl of rice, it wouldn't be enough for Shinso. He ended up working for several people in order to get the funds he needed. His neighbors still treated him like glass, but they were willing to let Midoriya pop in at times to clean their houses. Midoriya was very fast, and very efficient, and very quiet. And he never disturbed anything or anyone, so usually by the time he had finished cleaning the house, if you weren't in the same room he was cleaning, or wasn't paying attention to him, they generally never even knew Midoriya had been there except that the floors were sparkling clean and everything was shiny. He also ran errands for everyone, cleaned his neighbors' cars when they asked, and fetched stuff for them all the time, so by the time the new year came he barely had enough money to pay for Shinso's preschool, and enough food for the two of them. The principal was very surprised to see a 3-year-old purple-haired boy with a 12-year-old green-haired boy handing him a thick stack of 10,000 yen notes, but never questioned it. Money was money after all. Yes. His neighbors were nice enough to him to exchange his mountain of smaller notes for larger banknotes, or just let the boys' jobs pile up and just directly paid him in larger notes. Midoriya's schedule was hectic. He was lucky Shinso's preschool was full day instead of half day. He brought Shinso to preschool, attended his own middle school, ran his errands, picked Shinso up after lessons, hung out with him until night time, tucked Shinso in, before heading out for his own vigilante stuff. Midoriya shortened his vigilante time and took extra care to ensure no one saw him. He didn't need a target painted on Shinso's back. Shinso's insomnia was either chronic or acute, or even hereditary, and the poor boy often had problems sleeping. Midoriya used to spend 2 or 3 hours sleeping because he was just generally fidgety and nervous. Yes, he knew he was short. It was probably because of that, but with Shinso around he spent around 3 or 4 hours doing his vigilante job before heading back to snuggle with Shinso. They both liked it, and it actually helped them sleep better so no one complained. This cycle went on and on until one day, Midoriya picked up Shinso, taking the bag that Shinso usually brought to preschool, and instead of having a vibrant look on his face, the poor child looked sad. "Toshi? Are you okay?" He crouched down to get on ground level with the purple-haired child. "I'm fine." Shinso quickly wiped the tears away. "I told you. As long as I'm here, crying is fine." Shinso latched himself onto Midoriya and cried. "They said I'm weird and I don't sleep. And I look weird. And my quirk is bad." Midoriya cursed internally. Damn it. They keep saying it. Every day. Midoriya blanched. How long has he been teased? "Toshi, why didn't you tell me about it?" "I'm sorry. I should have seen the signs. I should have." "I'm so sorry, Toshi." Shinso shook his head. "It's fine. I know you say to ignore them, and that they don't know better. And if they say bad things about me then they're bad. Just hurt more today." Midoriya cupped Shinso's face and gently wiped his tears away. "Hitoshi." Shinso's eyes were immediately alert. Midoriya never used his first name unless it was serious, often opting to use the more affectionate nickname. "Next time this happens, tell me immediately. It pains me that you're suffering and I didn't know about it, okay? Just tell me. Even if we can't do anything, telling helps lessen the pain." Shinso nodded and sniffled. He tugged his sleeve down, and Midoriya frowned. "Toshi, roll up your sleeve." The toddler gulped and complied, and Midoriya gasped at the bruise that stood out against Shinso's pale skin. He would find out about it when they showered anyway, but still, seeing Shinso try to hide a bruise was worrying. "We're fixing that," Midoriya declared. "Any other injuries I should know of?" Shinso shook his head, and Midoriya decided that he had probably pushed Shinso enough. He carefully picked Shinso up and started walking home. Shinso usually liked to walk beside him and would protest he was cute when he did that, whenever Midoriya picked him up when he didn't want to be. Shinso instead just nestled himself comfortably in Midoriya's arms, eyes drooping. They were both tired. It was a long day. A warm shower and some fried rice sounded nice. Midoriya didn't do his errands that day. "Sir, he's getting bullied. I don't know about you, but I'm very sure that it's bad for children, especially at his age, to be told that he's going to end up as a villain." The previous day, when Midoriya picked Shinso up, Shinso said that his classmates took his pencil, and when Shinso tried to take it back, they broke it and told the teacher that it was Shinso who was taking their pencil. Guess who the teacher blamed? The child with the brainwashing quirk, of course. Said he shouldn't use his bad quirk to do bad things, and that things like this were what made people into villains. That word. Shinso hated it. Villains were people who hurt others for no reason. Shinso wasn't a villain. He didn't want to be one. He never wanted to be one. "Look, the entire class said it was Shinso's fault, Midoriya." The principal sighed. "I understand that the teacher shouldn't have called him a potential villain, But if everyone says that Shinso is wrong, then he's wrong. It's the majority. The majority is wrong. Look, I raised that kid. Myself. I know him. He wouldn't want to do anything wrong. You think he would take someone else's pencil when he has his own, and without asking for permission? He's trying his best to be perfect given his circumstance, and I don't think having all the kids bring him down is good for him. Midoriya growled. I can speak to the kids. But you know how kids are. You're quirkless. You know exactly how bad kids can get. I'm sorry, Midoriya, but there's nothing we can do. They're all toddlers. We can't punish them for being influenced by their surroundings. The principal shook his head. Then can I talk to the kids myself? Midoriya asked. I think we can arrange that. But if you try to defend Shinso, it won't last. I've been taking care of kids for so long. Once you leave, they'll pick on Shinso again. It would be better if he learned to stand up for himself. It might be better to homeschool him. That's the problem. I have school. I can't. This is the only place near my school and home that is affordable. At the very least, can you try to stop them from physically hurting him? I'll talk to him myself later. The principal sighed. Midoriya was stubborn. Very stubborn. He was old. He would never be able to win an argument against the 12-year-old. Midoriya himself went to that preschool before. He knew Midoriya was quirkless, and seeing the timid child finally standing up for himself warmed his heart. That was the only reason he allowed Midoriya to enroll Shinso for a lower rate that was within the boy's price range. Yes. He knew that Midoriya ran all over the neighborhood to run errands for people. He never thought that he adopted a child, and was surprised. Midoriya was picking Shinso up when he found a woman picking up another boy who was staying behind with Shinso. Toshi, how are you? Midoriya grinned. Shinso had turned 4 a few months ago, and Midoriya could see the huge improvement that he had with his quirk. Apparently it manifested early, but the actual workings of the quirk only just came to him, and they were working on giving Shinso complete control over his power and finding the limits of it. Shinso merely frowned, and slowly grabbed Midoriya's hand. You okay, Toshi? Shinso nodded. Mom, that's the weird one that controlled me. Midoriya frowned. He had been training enough with Shinso so that he wouldn't use his quirk by accident, and Shinso was so good with it that he only used it when he wanted. Only when he was scared or threatened that he would unintentionally activate it. Toshi, what happened? I'll tell you what happened, young man. That freak brainwashed my child. Such a villainous quirk, why is he here? The lady, who Midoriya assumed was the other kid's mother, screeched. Excuse me, I would prefer if you not call him a freak. Midoriya snapped. I didn't even use my quirk. Shinso muttered. He pushed me, then started yelling that I controlled him. No. I bumped into him by accident, and he made me give him my bag. The other boy whined. Midoriya growled. This kid was getting a bit too much for him. Kid, did Shinso say anything to you? The boy nodded, crying into his mother's shirt. Did you reply? The boy shook his head. Midoriya let out an angry, "Tch. Look, brat, and you listen up as well." Midoriya growled at both mother and child. His quirk is response-based. If you don't reply to him, he can't control you. The child's eyes widened. And Toshi has been training his quirk day and night to control it, so don't you dare accuse him of doing it by accident either. Midoriya poked his finger into the child's chest. You know, lying is bad. This reflects very badly on you and your mom. The mother tried to protest, but Midoriya's aura flared up. He had been learning to do that for a long time when he encountered another vigilante called Stendhal. Instead of being scared, he found it really fascinating, and had prompt questioned the bewildered vigilante on how the heck he did that. Stendhal ended up giving the child some pointers, before they ended up parting ways. Both mother and child froze in place, scared stiff of the menacing aura right in front of them. Shinso clutched Midoriya's leg, scared of what was going to happen. You leave Shinso Hitoshi alone. You lay a single finger on him. Regret. Understood? And it's very rude of you to call a child a freak simply because of his quirk. Midoriya hissed. Say that again, and I will get you in trouble with the police for quirk discrimination, Got it? The mother and child both nodded, and she picked up her child before leaving. Midoriya reined in his anger, before turning to Shinso, who was still scared and clinging to him. Toshi! The toddler let go of his leg, and Midoriya scooped him up. I a villain? You'll never be a villain, Toshi. You never even used your quirk. Midoriya ran his hand through Shinso's hair. You're a hero. My brave little hero, okay? Shinso nodded. You're my hero too. Eraserhead is second. You're first. Midoriya was internally screeching in happiness that his little brother thought he was a hero. I'm your hero. If you ever get into trouble, I'll save you for sure. So never give up, ever. Okay, Toshi? Shinso smiled and nodded. You like that cat cafe, don't ya? Come on. Let's go there for dinner. I'm sure Snowy and Sherry miss you already. Snowball. The white cat is called Snowball. And the orange one is Cherry, not Sherry. Shinso protested. Midoriya just chuckled as the two boys walked away from the preschool. Midoriya's threats had a larger impact than he thought. The child that once lied about Shindu never bothered him again, but there had been several more incidents when other children picked on him and Midoriya had to deal with the idiotic parents who thought their children were angels when they were in actuality demons. Midoriya didn't care that he had to scare the wits out of adults and children alike in order for them to leave Shinso alone. He didn't care if his actions seemed like a villain's to other people. If he had to, he'd happily burn the entire world to keep Shinso safe. There were rumors starting to spread that he had a demonic guardian that would protect him if anyone were to lay a finger on him. Except that everyone in the neighborhood seemed to think that Shinso had somehow summoned the demon and it had possessed the poor helpless quirkless Midoriya Izuku, using him as a vessel. Midoriya really wanted to snort. Humans were just so dumb and ridiculous sometimes. But he didn't. There were consequences. Everyone now stayed as far away from Shinso as possible, scared that the monster would come after them. Word of Shinso's quirk had also spread, and more people talked about the purple brainwashing monster that had a pet demon right on a leash. And every single time Midoriya entered his classroom, everyone, except Bakugo. Bakugo was laughing at Midoriya's expense the entire time while also being very internally confused, kept saying exorcism prayers and holding crosses and all sorts of random items. One kid was apparently on a different page from the others, and threw garlic at him. And salt. It was annoying. Very annoying. His bullies sometimes asked him questions. If Midoriya played nice, they bullied him. If he talked back at them, they screamed that he was possessed and ran. He also had countless people come up to him to ask if he was okay, did he want ginger tea to expel the demon, etc. And apparently no one questioned his connection to Shinso, thinking that he had no idea who Shinso was or that he was possessed. Midoriya was fairly sure it was the dumb parents that made it up. They hated Shinso and his quirk. They were scared of the child's guardian, and upon finding out he was quirkless, he was possessed by an evil spirit. So dumb. And the people that believe it all? Also dumb. Why the heck was everyone so scared of Shinso? He was a nice kid, perfect if anyone asked Midoriya. Shinso just wanted to help, make friends, be a normal kid. But no. He naturally had pale skin and eye bags. His hair seemed to defy gravity and was fluffed up for no reason. Midoriya really liked it. It was so DMN fluffy. So much fluffier than his own. Shinso said otherwise. He was kind, nice, polite, had perfect manners, never interrupted people when they were speaking and never lied. He hid his wounds and the bullying, but that was something else altogether. Shinso was practically like a kitten begging for positive attention, and everyone just kicked him away because he was different. Midoriya would indulge him, but both of them knew it wasn't enough. Midoriya was the only positive influence in Shinso's life, and Midoriya knew it wasn't healthy for the toddler. It got worse. Apparently, his father was a villain too. How coincidental. Inko didn't know about it, but when Midoriya went home one day to find his house in flames, he had panicked and barged into his home. Apparently, his father came home, talked with Inko, realized that she hadn't outrightly abandoned Midoriya for being quirkless, and had gotten angry. There were eyewitnesses who saw the fire-breathing villain stomping around, and Aizawa and Yamada, who just happened to be the closest heroes to the scene, managed to apprehend him. They had no idea what or how the villain was connected to anything, just that he was burning houses, and when they caught the villain they left to let their statements get taken. But the damage was already done. Midoriya had to practically beg Shinso to stay with the principal of the preschool for a few days while the entire matter was sorted out. Shinso didn't want to leave, but Midoriya promised that he would visit him every day until he managed to fix the entire situation. He didn't want to be seen with Shinso. That would just complicate the entire matter, cause then everyone would say Shinso brainwashed him and set the house on fire or something. It was better if Shinso stayed incognito to the government for the time being. Inko technically owned the house, and had already paid for electricity and water for the next few years, and since she was dead and his father was a villain, the house was put under Midoriya's name. However, her savings and money came from Hitoshi, who apparently provided for her, so that had been confiscated by the government. Midoriya, who was 13 at the time, had outrightly refused to go into an orphanage, and practically told everyone that he was capable of taking care of himself. No one wanted to argue with the quirkless kid. They didn't really care either. They left him to his own devices, and just provided enough money for food. Everything else was swept under the rug. Midoriya was fine with that. He didn't want government people in his home anyway. Shinso would still be safe with him. He was capable of providing for them all. He did have to end up working a lot more in order to pay for his own education as well. Apparently the government thought that Midoriya ate a lot or something, cause the amount provided was way too much just for food. It was enough for him to pay at least half his own school fees, so while Midoriya didn't have to work that much more, it was still very, very annoying that they just agreed to let a kid live on his own just because he was quirkless. The discrimination was that bad. Midoriya was very much considering just studying ahead and getting out of junior high early, but both of them agreed that doing so would make him stand out and it would end up being much more dangerous for them both if anyone found out that two kids were practically living on their own. You're telling me that this villain killed people, burnt a few houses, we caught him, and now there's a child living on his own. Nizu nodded. Yeah. Apparently, the kid had specifically said that he didn't want people checking on him because that would just draw more attention to him. They didn't specify his age, just that he was a teen. Maybe he isn't that young. We can't pursue this anymore unless you want to take it up with orphanages and all the officials, and while I say that it's wrong to just let him live like this, doing any more might make it more dangerous. Aizawa just sighed. This was just getting better and better. Sarcastically. The vigilante he used to chase was appearing a lot less often, and Aizawa was hoping that maybe he realized it was too dangerous and was trying to cut it out of his schedule slowly. Hopefully. He had a very, very bad feeling that things were going to get a lot more messy. Midoriya was very, very tired. Studying, working, everything. Shinso was always doing his best to try and help out, sometimes helping run a few simple calculations, or grabbed his stuff when he needed it. Apparently, after Midoriya had to fix a few people's ovens and toasters a few times, people had realized he was good with machines. Some of his neighbors paid him to fix their doorbells, or vacuum cleaners, or whatever broken devices they possessed. The large ones, like kitchen appliances, were easy to fix. Phones were not. He often had to squint at all the cables before Shinso just shoved a magnifying glass between the device and his face, holding it steady to that Midoriya could easily grab the one red wire out the dozens of wires that littered the inside of the device. This person tried to repair it on their own, and had done a horrible job. The wires were all over the place, they were all connected wrongly, and seriously, why the heck was the home button connected to the battery directly without insulation or a transformer? They were literally asking to be electrocuted. Idiots. Shinso just hummed and grabbed the screwdriver for Midoriya when he asked for it. Midoriya took it, prying out a few more of the insides of the phone before he set about fixing them. Midoriya was tired. And mad. But mostly tired. Not just physically. Emotionally and mentally. He understood, but he couldn't accept it. Why shouldn't it? What did he do wrong? Why was it always him or Shinso that was in the wrong when they were the victims? Why couldn't he stand up for Shinso without having ridiculous repercussions? Why couldn't Shinso live a normal life when he was literally the sweetest person in the whole entire world? Midoriya Izuku realized one thing. They maybe not be the ones in the wrong. But if the whole world says they're wrong, were they really right? Shinso was bad with interacting with people. Scratch that. He only knew how to interact with Midoriya and the elderly owner of the preschool that was very exasperated with Midoriya's antics. Actually, he had no idea how to even interact with that old man that took care of him for 3 days under Midoriya's request, and Shinso was very sure there was also some kind of exchange in money. The old man was wary around him. Shinso knew that much. He did give him food and kept an eye on him, and Shinso did his very best to behave and not do anything wrong, but honestly, unlike Midoriya, who was very open with his physical and verbal cues and wouldn't hesitate to tell him if he did something wrong, the elderly preschool owner was reserved. He never knew if he was supposed to eat, wait until he finished eating before starting, or was supposed to take his meal somewhere else to eat. It stressed him out. So every time he got a negative reaction out of anyone, he assumed it was wrong. But he was just getting himself hopelessly confused. Using a pencil made everyone stay as far away as possible from him. Was that wrong? It had to be wrong, right? So he used a crayon. Still, no one went near him. So that must be wrong too. Returning a pair of scissors to the teacher when it had fallen out of her bag? The teacher looked so pale when she saw the cutting instrument in the child's grasp, she snatched it right out of his hands and ordered him back to the classroom, looking at him like he was going to murder her or something. What was right? What was wrong? Everything was wrong. Shinso didn't know anymore. Was helping people bad? Was hurting people good? Why did he always get a negative reaction when he didn't do anything wrong, but when the others used to bully him, all the other children were all happy and smiling? He wanted to ask Midoriya. Midoriya would always tell him whatever he wanted. But Shinso knew the older child was preoccupied at the moment, and didn't want to bother him when he could see the exhaustion and feel the overwhelming emotions of anger and guilt whenever the older came to visit. So he swallowed his questions. They could wait until Midoriya sorted the matters with the house out. It was a relief when Midoriya barged into the old man's office one day, declaring that everything was done and he was taking Shinso with him. Finally, being with the only person that cared about him simply because he loved him, and for no other reason. That was one of the reasons why Shinso loved Midoriya so much. As his older brother, as the only person who understood him, who took him in despite what everyone else in the world said, who still loved him unconditionally even with all the rumors floating around the two of them. But Shinso knew those weren't the main reasons why he loved his older brother. He didn't know the real reason. Maybe because they were family? That seemed like a valid reason. Emotions were complicated. No one could explain them. Emotions were irrational. Especially love. But love was good. Shinso knew Midoriya was a rational person. He rarely acted on his emotions, reining them in all the time, rendering him emotionally exhausted all the time from hiding all his anger at the world. But Midoriya never repressed his emotions around Shinso. He knew when he was sad, was angry, was upset, and most important of all, when he was happy. And Shinso liked it whenever he helped Midoriya do something, or after Midoriya would rant about some idiot or some other things until he calmed down and smiled, cuddling Shinso as they both sat quietly together. He made Midoriya happy and Shinso was happy too. Family was nice, Shinso decided. But with the love came the pain. Hey, you know that green-haired kid that picks the freak up? Yeah, the demon one, right? He's scary. Maybe he's a villain. I think he has a villainous quirk like the weirdo does. Maybe he really is a monster. Shinso had felt this foreign feeling bubble up in his stomach when he wore that. Saying all sorts of things about him wasn't bad enough. They just had to speak badly about Midoriya too. A hot searing pain flared in his gut, twisting and turning and roared at him to be released. He tried to suppress it, but he felt nauseous, and the fiery feeling burst out. Shut up. One-chan is the best person ever. He didn't realize he was yelling. He's the kindest, best person in the whole world. Stop saying bad things about him. Anger, tied with love for being the most irrational of emotions. Was this how Aizu felt all the time whenever people say bad things about me? I can't control it. How does he control it? He didn't realize the caretaker coming towards him until he was picked up by the collar of his shirt. "You little troublemaker. I have no idea why the owner even lets you stay here. You're just a future villain in the making. Stop trying to bother everyone else." He didn't reply. He couldn't. If he did, they'll say he brainwashed them. He had to keep his mouth shut. She dragged the child out of the classroom and dumped him in a closet. "I hope you'll think about your actions and how wrong they were." Before he could protest, the door slammed shut. He heard the click of the lock, and the whole place fell into darkness. He couldn't even see his hands in front of him. He banged his shoulder into the door, and an ache ran through his arm, but the door didn't even budge. There wasn't any other sounds, other than his breathing and the faint echo of his attempt to hit the door. He was scared. He couldn't see anything. Shinso tucked himself into a corner of the closet. He was cold. He felt his breath hitch. But he knew if he cried out for help, he would just be locked in here longer. He wrapped his arms around himself, trying to keep himself warm and away from the coolness of the metal cupboard. He wanted to cry. He was all alone again, sitting in the cool, damp alleyway as people ignored him, walking past him like he didn't exist. "As long as you're with me, crying will never be bad. Aizu will come for me, right?" He just had to hold out till then. "Where? Shinso?" Midoriya grit his teeth. When he went to pick up his little brother, he was nowhere to be found. "I have no idea. I asked the teachers when he didn't come out, but none of them knew where he was. Apparently, he was missing the entire day." The owner sighed. "The entire day?" Midoriya's breath hitched. Toshi knows it's dangerous outside. He knows he should never leave the school. That meant he was somewhere here. Midoriya raced into the school, despite the elderly owner telling him to calm down and think. "Toshi!" He raced around the first floor, yelling desperately, "Toshi?" His voice echoed in the hallways eerily. His footsteps sounded like thunder in the creepy quietness of the preschool. It was no longer full of happy, cheerful children. It was as quiet as a graveyard. The evening lights that peeked in through the windows cast shadows that seemed to twist and turn in Midoriya's vision. He was probably hallucinating. Getting such little sleep was definitely taking its toll on him. He couldn't give up yet. Shinso was still here somewhere. Midoriya wasn't leaving this med place without him, even if he had to tear the entire building down brick by brick. "Hitoshi! Where are you? Hitoshi!" He ran up the stairs, tripping on the last step. His chin slammed into the ground, and his mouth was slammed shut by the impact, but Midoriya just scrambled to his feet again, picking himself off the ground as he shot off down the hallway again. "Hitoshi! Aizu!" Shinso didn't know how long he had been in the cupboard. He didn't have a watch. It was dark. Too dark. He wouldn't be able to tell the time even if he had it. He didn't even know what had woken him up. He only knew that he had tried to stifle his tears, but he had ended up crying quietly to himself before he passed out in the darkness of the cupboard. "Hitoshi!" It was Midoriya. Shinso felt his heart race. Midoriya was here. "Aizu!" His voice was quiet, and his throat burned from the dryness caused by his crying. He coughed. "Toshi!" Midoriya's voice sounded closer. He tried again. "Aizu!" He didn't have to wait long before he heard the familiar click of the door, and it was flung open. Light poured into the cupboard, and Shinso rubbed his eyes. Midoriya stood in front of him, panting. His hair was messy, even messier than usual. There was a bruise forming under his chin. His Aldra Junior High uniform was crumpled all over the place, and his pupils were dilated with exhaustion. But it was Midoriya. Shinso flung himself into Midoriya, who picked up the child with one swift motion. "You're okay now, Toshi. You're okay." Shinso just nuzzled his face against Midoriya's neck as tears threatened to fall. "You must have been scared in there, weren't you?" Midoriya's voice was hypnotic to Shinso, slowly lulling the smaller child into a haze of sleepiness. Midoriya could feel the tremors emanating from the child subsiding. Who the heck in the right mind thought it was ever okay to lock a 5-year-old in a cupboard? He was scared. But he was fine now. He was safe. The warmth of his brother wrapped around his small frame, and the light that seeped into the hallway was good enough for Shinso. Midoriya spent the entire night fussing over Shinso. Shinso had ended up developing a fear of the dark, and the old fear of abandonment that he thought had faded away had crept back up from the darkness. Midoriya only realized this after he had gotten up to use the bathroom and returned to their room, only for Shinso to fling himself at the older boy, crying and shaking the entire time. He was ready to murder someone for that vile act or cruelty. But his first and foremost priority was Shinso. They were lucky it was a Friday, so Midoriya could accompany Shinso for a full 2 days before he had to go back to attending school. Or maybe he should just ditch school. Who cared about quadratic equations and why titration works? He already knew all that stuff. It was in no way more important than Shinso's mental and physical well-being. Midoriya stopped his vigilantism completely. He knew that Shinso was resilient and wouldn't want to let something like this stop him from attending preschool and trying to live a semi-normal life. Midoriya wasn't going to leave Shinso alone in the house anymore, especially at night. He didn't want to save anyone if he couldn't even protect his little brother from his own nightmares and demons. Midoriya tried to think of everything that would cheer the boy up. Watching silly videos on the internet, playing ridiculous games, they ended up sticking scraps of paper on each other and chased each other around the house. Shinso was happy as long as he was with the older boy, Midoriya realized. He wasn't going to leave anytime soon. And why did you stick him in the cupboard? He was causing trouble, sir. The teacher snorted. Shinso had told him the name of the teacher that had left him in there and conveniently forgot that he was there, forcing the boy to be stuck in there for the entire day in the cold and darkness. Midoriya had filed a complaint to the preschool owner, and they were currently discussing about it. And what exactly did he do? He was yelling at his classmates. Really? Midoriya raised his eyebrow, his tone turning sarcastic. And that was a very good reason to act like you did. Sure. You're a responsible adult that cannot handle a child yelling? Really? Are you sure you have a teaching or caretaking license? He was scaring them. The teacher replied, though she did shrink back from Midoriya's tone. Shinso was sitting outside the office, listening to Midoriya scold the teacher. Oh, so you let the other kids bully him and you don't even bat an eyelash, but when he gets angry he's the one at fault. How dumb can you get? He has emotions too. Excuse me, he's the bully if everyone else is scared of him. Do you even know why he was yelling in the first place? It doesn't matter. Of course it matters. He wouldn't just get angry for no reason. Both of you please calm down. No. I won't stand for this. The other children being against him is bad enough. The fact that even the teachers are biased against him for no reason is worse. You're the ones that are letting the children think it's okay to bully other people. Do not use that tone with me, young man. Excuse me. You're not my mom, and you literally left a 5-year-old in a cupboard. In the dark. For the entire day. And you didn't bother to let him out. You have absolutely no right to call me that, or even take care of any kids. Midoriya growled. His eyes seemed to glint in the dark, and his tone and attitude literally screamed that he expected no resistance. He wasn't met with any. The teacher had shrunk into a corner, eyes wide open with fear as she stared at the 14-year-old staring her down. If I see you ever again, harassing my little brother, you will pay for it, understood? Midoriya hissed. She nodded. But, have a nice day. Midoriya's demeanor changed drastically, and he smiled, walking out of the office. Shinso grabbed his hand, and they both walked out of the school. The owner sighed. Honestly, I agree with him. I can't have a caretaker that locks children in cupboards. That's just too much. I'm sorry. You won't have to come tomorrow. The stupid child. The woman hissed as she collected her belongings and walked out of the school. But it seems like the rumors were right. She smiled, picking up her phone. Hello? I got fired. I have the info on both the brainwashing child and the supposed quirkless demon. When do you think we can get them? Any time after 3 to about 5 in afternoon. That's when he gets picked up. Good. Midoriya tapped his foot restlessly as he waited for his lesson to end. The teacher was talking about algebra manipulation. That was fun. Midoriya had already finished the entire worksheet that the teacher had given him, as well as the English grammar worksheet the other teacher had given him. He literally didn't have anything to do. It's been a few weeks since Shinso's incident of being locked in the cupboard. Midoriya was still very angry over it. But the teacher had been fired and there weren't any more incidents like that, so all was good. Deku, stop tapping your feet, damn it. Bakugo hissed, it's annoying. Midoriya rolled his eyes, but obliged. His relationship with Bakugo was good. He knew why Bakugo used to blow him up, but he was still slightly peeved that Bakugo hadn't thought to talk to him. Then again, the same could be said about himself. Why didn't he question why Bakugo was blowing him up all the time? He couldn't really blame Bakugo. They both had no idea what they were doing. They were currently at the point where they had made up. They gently sparred sometimes during lunches and breaks, but were very awkward around each other. Neither of them knew what to talk about, and it was still weird to be next to the person that blew him up every 5 minutes since he was a toddler. Bakugo was okay with that. They both needed time to adjust. Midoriya was still worried about Shinso. He knew all the teachers were biased against the child with a brainwashing quirk. That was the only teacher that acted against him, but who knew when any of the other caretakers would take action again? Shinso was idly doodling on a piece of paper. He got bored often. Waiting for Midoriya was painful when the only thing he could do was stare at the clock on the wall and the seconds ticked past. Midoriya had started teaching him basic mathematics, and he had already finished up the math exercises that Midoriya had placed in his bag. Math was... it was logical. Shinso liked logical stuff. It made sense. And things like 19 plus 24 weren't that hard. The bell by the door chimed as the door was pushed open. Shinso lifted his head in anticipation, hoping it was Midoriya and that he had come to pick him up early. To his dismay, it wasn't his older brother. It was a man with long brown hair that reached his shoulders, with eye bags that rivaled that of Shinso's own. His eyes were red and full of malice. The man just felt so wrong. Shinso wished he was back in the cupboard instead of right in front of this new person, and that was saying a lot about the amount of fear and unease he got looking at the man. I'm here to pick up Shinso, Hitoshi. Shinso blanched. Who the heck was this guy? Midoriya wouldn't get someone else to pick him up without telling him, much less a stranger. He wasn't on the piece of paper that Midoriya had handed him. Midoriya had drawn 4 people, but apparently 2 of the 4 drawings were of the same person. They were both blonde. One was of Present Mike, a hero and DJ that they both liked to listen to over the radio when he blasted all sorts of music over the weekends. The other blonde was apparently him as well, but without the tinted glasses, and he had his hair tied up in a bun. There was another with spiky, beige hair. His eyes were red, and according to Midoriya, he swore a lot, but he trusted this person called Bakugo Katsuki who had an explosion quirk. The last person had a gray scarf around his neck, black eyes and equally black long hair. Eraser head. Those were the people that Midoriya said were trustworthy. This new guy wasn't either of them. So he couldn't be trusted. What does he want with me? The old man looked at this new guy weirdly. Please don't let me go with him, please don't let me go with him, please don't let me go with him. Who are you? You're new. I don't recognize you. Thank God. Shinso's caretaker told me to pick him up as he's busy. The man shrugged. Look, who is Shinso's caretaker if you don't mind me asking? He doesn't want to reveal his name. There was a problem. The old man and Shinso were the only ones who knew Midoriya's name. If there was someone who was picking Shinso up in his place, they should have mentioned his name. It wasn't like there was anyone else in the room that was trying to eavesdrop. The old man sighed. Look, please get out of here. You seem like a decent person, but please stop harassing this kid or I'll call the police for attempted kidnapping. The man sighed. Looks like we'll have to do it the hard way. The man immediately whipped out a gun, and before Shinso could do anything, an loud bang rang out through the preschool. Shinso flinched at the sudden loud sound. He blinked, and realized that the elderly owner of the preschool was slumped against his table, a red liquid slowly dripping off the table. Shinso gulped, and backed away from the man, who was twirling the gun in his hand. Come on, Shinso. You don't want to end up like that, do you? He cornered the smaller boy, and Shinso looked around. He was backed into a corner, and he could feel his back against the wall. Before he could even think about making another move, He felt something sharp sink into his neck. He blinked. His eyesight turned blurry. He couldn't see straight. He felt his legs give out from under him as he gazed at the man in front of him. Shinso couldn't move his body. It felt stiff and it wouldn't respond to him. He felt. What was that word that Midoriya taught him? Paralyzed? Midoriya finished all his stuff early and went to pick Shinso up. His finals were coming up soon, and while he didn't really need to study for it, he had to start getting ready for UA's entrance exam. He also didn't want to leave Shinso in preschool for too long either. Who knew how long more the child had to suffer in the demon closet if Midoriya hadn't gotten there earlier than usual? Midoriya felt a shiver up his spine. Something was wrong. Very wrong. He shook his head before he started running towards the preschool. He just rounded the corner when he saw a man walking out, carrying a child. He blinked. The child had purple hair. Toshi! Hey! Put him down! Midoriya yelled as he ran at the man. His hand automatically reached into the hidden compartment in his jacket to pull out his retractable staff, one that he and Shinso both had fun making together with the scraps from the nearby garbage beach. You must be the demon, eh? The man grinned before a dark liquid was expelled from his mouth, enveloping the duo. Toshi! Midoriya yelled and leapt at them. But it was too late. The black ooze had literally disappeared into thin air, and Midoriya bashed into the ground. Toshi! There was no reply. He had disappeared. With Hitoshi, Midoriya felt nauseous. His throat tightened, and he felt utterly sick to his stomach. Hitoshi was gone. He forced that uncomfortable feeling back into the depths it had crawled out from. He couldn't let himself be bothered with his emotions right now. He needed to get help. Midoriya slammed his palms onto the desk of the police station, the loud sound echoing throughout the office. Tsukachi and Aizawa jumped at the sudden loud noise and turned away from whatever conversation they were having to face the green-haired boy who had barged into the station. They were originally talking about the disappearance of the new vigilante. Aizawa was worried. What if he was dead? He was just a kid. Aizawa couldn't help it. Vigilantes don't just disappear like that. Aizawa looked up. He recognized the kid. He remembered seeing him once walking along the side of the road, talking to a purple-haired toddler. Aizawa could tell by how they looked at each other, they both loved each other like the other was the entire world. That kind of pure, unadulterated like was rare in this world, especially among siblings who wanted to make it big in the hero industry. It was pathetic. To be a hero, you had to step over others, but that was life. You couldn't get too attached. That would hinder their work. There's a kidnapping. I saw it. He took my little brother. The police officer at the desk blanched. The demon? I'm not a demon. Midoriya growled. You guys are idiots if you're believing stupid rumors like that. Now get serious, put that stupid mug aside and help me, goddamn it. Aizawa blinked. What the heck? Why is the kid giving off such intensity? The police had cleared his desk and was sitting upright, perfectly still in an instant, faster than either of them had seen him react before. Who is this kid? Sorry. Who are you? Midoriya Izuku. Age 14. I go to Aldra Junior High. Alright. Who was kidnapped? My little brother. Shinso Hitoshi. He's 5. He goes to the Aoehoshi preschool, the one 3 blocks away from here. He isn't registered under. I adopted him 4 years ago. Aizawa gulped when Tsukachi looked at him and nodded. Midoriya was telling the truth. That meant Shinso was abandoned when he was 1. That was too young. Way too young. Another bothered Aizawa. Midoriya said he adopted Shinso. Not his mom or dad. He did. And he was 14. He adopted Shinso when he was 10. Both of them were too young. Geez. The officer gulped. Okay, how was he dash? I was picking him up. This guy with long black hair and red eyes was carrying him out. I tried to tell him to let go and they disappeared into black ooze. The kid was intense, Aizawa would give him that. And straightforward. Midoriya groaned. It's had to describe them all. Can I just draw them out for you? The officer nodded, meekly pushing over a pack of pencils and paper. Midoriya grabbed them, and the officer flinched. Geez, Stop acting like I'm going to hurt you or something. You're a police officer, aren't you? Tsukachi blinked. What's this about a demon? Aizawa asked. Tsukachi shrugged. There are rumors about an evil purple-haired toddler who can control people, and apparently they summoned a demon that possessed a green-haired quirkless boy called Midoriya Izuku. No one even refers to him by name cause, speak of the devil and he shall appear, or something. Aizawa frowned in disbelief. Yep, that rumor was dumb. Midoriya was obviously overprotective of the poor kid, and if people hated them enough to start rumors like this, then his attitude was justified. He was shaken out of his thoughts when Midoriya slammed some paper on the police officer's desk, scaring the poor man again. He shoved the paper in the officer's face, revealing two well-drawn colored sketches of a man with long black hair and red eyes, and a smaller child with purple hair. This is the kidnapper. And this is Shinso Hitoshi. And this is my phone number. Midoriya leaned forward and growled, I want in on this case. Any new information, leads, clues, I want to know. If your boss doesn't want to, you contact me and I will speak to him myself. Understand? The officer nodded meekly, and Midoriya sighed. Okay, can you guys send some people to investigate Aoihoshi preschool? Didn't dash. Of course not. Do I look like I work for the police? Midoriya snorted, and that's why I didn't call, and instead ran here. If I had called, I would have probably only just have gotten connected. Your system is inefficient. And if you're not doing something about it now, I'll go investigate myself. That's not a good idea. Aizawa pipped up. Midoriya regarded him and Tsukachi oddly. Pro-hero Eraserhead. You gonna come help me, or are you going to just lecture me? Aizawa gave a small snort. He liked this kid. He didn't beat around the bush or sugarcoat things. He was straight to the point. He was logical. And he knew about him? That's a first. Usually if he interfered like this, people would tell him to stay out of their business, not even recognizing him. That was the job of an underground hero, but yeah, it got annoying. I suppose so. But follow me. Aizawa was about to retort that he didn't listen to kids when he saw the expressions in Midoriya's eyes. He was determined to find Shinso. But that expression was hiding the vivid array of negative emotions deep underneath. Rage, anger, grief, self-loathing, sadness, desperation. Aizawa's heart softened. Maybe he'll relent, just this once. Aizawa and Midoriya walked briskly, side by side. Tsukachi had agreed to get into contact with Nizu for him while he sorted the case out with Midoriya as they made their way to the preschool. So, you doing okay, kid? Yes, I'm totally doing okay. Midoriya grumbled, his tone laced with sarcasm. He led the pro-hero to the preschool, and Aizawa blinked. He pushed open the door, and grimaced as the metallic smell of blood filled his nose. Midoriya essayed in a breath when he essayed the still, bloodied form of the elderly preschool owner. Aizawa did not like normal Midoriya was acting seeing a dead body that was dripping blood. Heck, even he panicked when he saw his first dead body while on patrol with Yamada in their third year of UA. Midoriya had glanced at the dead body, said nothing, and continued looking at the rest of the room like nothing else was wrong. Aizawa grunted. This was troublesome. A dead body, a kidnapped child, and a teen that was oddly immune to the thought that someone was dead and bleeding. Then Midoriya saw a small green bag on the ground. Toshi's bag. He yelped, and was about to rush into the corner with the abandoned bag, when he was grabbed by Aizawa before he could run further into the school in a panic as mess up the scene. Calm down. Deep breaths. Do you know where the security room is? I need access to the cameras. Midoriya nodded, gulping. I fix the tech here sometimes. I can get you access. Alright, let me there. There's going to be more heroes and police arriving, so if you're not with me, you'll get in trouble. Midoriya mutely nodded, as he pushed a door open and made his way down the hallway. That's him. Midoriya nodded at the picture shown on Aizawa's screen. Nizu had sent a picture on the database based off the drawing that Midoriya had made. However, his quirk wasn't the black, gooey teleportation quirk that Midoriya had described. His quirk was a paralysis quirk, where his nails could grow into needles and all he had to do was stab someone to paralyze them. It matched with what Aizawa got from the security cameras. They saw the man enter. They saw him shoot the preschool owner, corner Shinso, and stab him in the neck with his needles. Midoriya had almost bashed the screen in his rage. At himself or the villain, Aizawa didn't know. Probably them both. He just tied the smaller child up in his capture weapon while he tried to access the rest of the security feeds. He saw the fluffy-haired child being bullied. He saw the teacher lock him in the cupboard. He saw Midoriya running throughout the school, before finally letting the child out of the closet. He saw parents pointing fingers at the poor scared child, before Midoriya retaliated and defended the kid. For goodness sake. Shinso had it rough. And a brainwashing quirk? No wonder everyone thought so badly of him. There was a villain take-like to hide in the shadows, and took control of random people, making them commit crimes completely against their will. He remembered one encounter where a teacher was yelling at the students to run away as he tried to hack away with them with a knife. He was lucky that Kayama was there and managed to knock the teacher out before he could hurt anyone, but the students were traumatized. And the ooze person. Nizu had identified him as another villain. The fact they had a teleportation quirk user was scary. Leads would be even harder to find since there wasn't even a trail for them to follow. More pro-heroes had arrived at the scene, and Aizawa had to pull Midoriya out of the school. The teen just looked emotionless. His eyes looked dead. All the anger was gone. He looked like his entire world had shattered. Aizawa groaned under his breath as Yamada, in his present Mike persona, tried to comfort the boy, to no avail. If there's anything we can do to help Dash. If you want to help, please. Find him. Help me find my brother. Midoriya's voice cracked. He's the only person that matters to me. Please. Aizawa thought. Shinso meant the world to Midoriya. His entire world did shatter. Aizawa pulled the boy in for a hug. He couldn't help it. He was attached already. The boy was quirkless. Aizawa understood how he felt. He himself practically fought quirkless, given his quirk didn't even work on mutant-type quirks. He could probably guess how badly the boy had been shunned for it. He was scary at times, sure, but he wouldn't be able to find or rescue Shinso without help. He had seen how much Midoriya loved Shinso, how much he cared about him. He had no problems threatening pro-heroes or police officers just to be able to understand the entire situation and get as much information as he could about his brother's state. The fact that he was asking, practically begging for help, showed how desperate he was. Yeah. We'll do our best. Problem child. Midoriya growled. It had been a few days after the start of the investigation. He popped by the police station every day, but they had no information for him. He wasn't sure if it was because there were no leads yet, or they didn't want to deal with the quirkless green-haired kid that they all called a demon. He had gone back to vigilantism, or just running all over the place in a green hoodie. He didn't really focus on taking out villains, just finding information about his brother. But if anyone came after him, they would have hell on their hands. So, if they weren't going to spill to a 14-year-old student, maybe a vigilante? He knew that Aizawa was after him. He did like to dance around the pro-hero, popping up, teasing him, sending silly messages and cat pictures on his vigilante phone. Aizawa was annoyed with him for sure. But maybe he might be more willing to open up. With that, he put on his sleeveless hoodie, put his voice modulator mask on, and hopped out of the window. The UA exams were in 3 or 4 months. Aizawa would probably stay in the area. But finding where the pro-hero patrolled at night was. He wore black. That was a pain to find. Maybe he should let Eraserhead find him instead. Green was a much easier color to spot. He quickly whipped out his phone and texted the hero. Eraserhead. I want to meet up at 11. Find me 2 stations away from UA on the usual rooftop. Present Mike can come too if he wants, I guess. He pocketed his phone and leapt off the roof, rolling, before blasting into a sprint. He had 2 hours before he was due to meet the hero. Maybe he could sniff around for more clues and take his anger out on villain small fries. Aizawa groaned at the text. The vigilante that disappeared for several months was back, roaming the streets. And now he wanted to talk. And at least he was alive. How old was the demon vigilante anyway? Aizawa slumped back into the sofa, aggressively sipping his juice pack. Everything seemed to be going crazy now. The UA exams in general, the kidnapped child, and now this. Thank God he didn't have a homeroom class, or he'd go mad. What's gotten you so worked up? Yamada asked, tossing another juice pack at Aizawa. You've been angrily skiing that thing for so long, I'm surprised you haven't passed out from the lack of oxygen. Aizawa tossed his juice pack in the trash can across the living room. It smacked against the wall and pathetically slid into the trash bin, before the tired pro-hero grabbed the new pack and decided on it with what was definitely more force than necessary. You know that vigilante? The one called Akatani? Didn't you mention that he disappeared a few months ago? Yeah. He's active now. Aizawa nodded. He just texted me. He wants to meet. He said you could come if you wanted to. Gimme a second to gel my hair, Sho. It takes at least half an hour for you to do your hair, Zashi. Sup? Midoriya greeted, as he saw Aizawa and Yamada climb up the ladder that led to the roof where he was waiting. So, Akatani, what do you want now? You disappear for a few months, and then you come back again? What do you want? I had stuff to do. Midoriya grumbled. Eraser was really worried, you know? Yamada said. Midoriya's face shot up. Aizawa was worried about him? Sure, he and Aizawa had met a few times while Midoriya was patrolling, and they did have conversations while the teen was trying to avoid getting caught in Aizawa's capture weapon, but he didn't think that Aizawa was that concerned. Shut up, Mike. Aizawa growled. He didn't want to admit it. Midoriya sighed and got straight to the point. So, kidnapped toddler. Yamada and Aizawa straightened out. This case wasn't revealed to the public, at least in Mizudafu, seeing how bad a reputation Midoriya and Shinso got. If they revealed it, who knew how the public would react? How did the vigilante know about it? You know, the green-haired kid has literally been asking anyone who hasn't shunned both him and the other kid before. Midoriya snorted. That technically was true. Whenever he saw a pro-hero or he sought them out, he literally ran up to them, asked them if they've seen a purple-haired toddler before spouting every single thing he knew about the case after literally dragging the hero into some place where they won't be overheard. Midoriya himself had a file on it at home that he personally compiled. Aizawa sighed. Midoriya really was determined to find his little brother. Heck, he was even dragging other pro-heroes into it. No wonder Kamui Woods was saying something about a kidnapped kid with purple hair and someone dragging him into an alleyway to talk. He did have to admire the kid's drive though. And could he really call it bothering heroes when this kind of stuff was what they were supposed to do in the first place? So, he asked you? Yep. If you can even call asking your hidden vigilante persona for help as asking. And you want to help him? Why? Midoriya sighed. Aizawa really was being cautious. Look, I know how it feels to lose a person close to you. That's my kidnapped brother. I lost the only person that I ever cared about. Toshi. I know it hurts a lot. My heart feels like it's being torn into two. I don't want other people to feel like that. I don't want to feel that. It hurts too much. Aizawa gulped. He didn't think that the vigilante had also lost someone. I'm sorry for your loss. It's fine. No, it isn't. Look, kid, I know you're a vigilante and stuff, but since you technically never used your quirk, hey, Eraser, he didn't use his quirk, right? So technically we can't arrest you, but this is supposed to be a secret from the public, you know. Yamada said. Midoriya snorted. He definitely liked Present Mike for trying to very nicely tell him to not get involved. If it was that flaming trash dump endeavor, no doubt he would have been fried to a crisp. There's a kidnapped kid. As far as I know, they have a teleportation quirk user, and a user that can paralyze people. You're going to need all the help you can get. I'm not planning on revealing anything to the public, but I think we can speed this process up if we help each other. Midoriya said. Will you be telling Midoriya? Who's that? Midoriya feigned ignorance. The green-haired kid. Oh, of course not. That kid doesn't need to worry about any more stuff. Just let me worry, damn it. It doesn't matter if you agree to this or not. Anything you know, I will find out eventually. And I'm pretty sure I can find out more information about this than either of you. So you either work with me and we help each other, or I'll just investigate and rescue the kid myself. You can't. It's dangerous. Yamada retorted. And how old are you anyway? Old enough to protect myself. Midoriya snorted. That's a fair enough point. Aizawa sighed. The kid knew how to fight and avoid attacks at the very least. And he seemed smart, since was able to take out people that outnumbered him, or was a lot stronger than him. We can help each other, I suppose. Oi, Eraser, are you sure? Yamada groaned. This would definitely speed up the process of finding the kid. We honestly don't have much yet, but there's a few conditions. 1. Any information you get, you send it to us, immediately, along with sources and your own deductions. We would let the other pros see it, and it would be very weird if we gave them conclusions with no concrete evidence or thought processes. You're basically incognito to them. Yep. I was originally going to do that. Also, you guys have to spill too. Fine. 2. We meet every week. Somewhere. I want to make sure you're not getting yourself involved in something too big for you to handle. Midoriya snorted. Aizawa really was a mother hen. Or a mother cat. He seemed more like a cat. Yamada was a bird. 3. You do not tell Midoriya anything. We'll sieve through the information and tell him what it necessary. Fine. Is that it? No. Who the heck are you under the hood? Yamada asked, butting in. Nope. I'm not taking the hood off. Midoriya growled. It was worth a shot. Yamada sighed. He was curious to know who Akatani really was, though. He recently started wearing a mask, so his voice was slightly different. His hood was also on almost all the time, and they didn't even know what color hair the vigilante had. All they knew was that he had bright green eyes that glinted in the moonlight. How old are you? Not saying either. That means you're way too young to be a vigilante kid. I will not agree or disagree with that statement. You just admitted it. Aizawa sighed. The last time he saw him, he had an assumption that he was around 18. Maybe a very small 18-year-old. But now, he had a good long look at Akatani. The way he spoke. Despite having a voice changer, his sentence structure and the way he dealt with the heroes made him feel younger. He was small. He was probably as tall as Midoriya. So maybe he was 14 or 15. That was still way too young. But he knew he wasn't going to get anything more out of the vigilante. That's it. Alright, Phil. I want to know about the people who kidnapped the kid. So, personally, I think that Ooze guy can only teleport people that are close to him, or at least, he knows them. Midoriya said, otherwise he would be able to just teleport Shinso out of the preschool on his own, without needing Paralysis Guy to pick him up. That means Paralysis Guy and Ooze Guy are probably working together. But based on your records, neither of them are very smart, so there's probably some other mastermind behind this kidnapping, and they want Shinso for something. The audio in the cameras specifically said they were after him. Aizawa nodded. So, why do they want him? Midoriya asked. No idea. Could be for his brainwashing quirk, but you probably heard of the rumors surrounding Shinso and Midoriya. I'm personally thinking that they're not sure of Shinso's real quirk, and want to use him to get to the demon, or something. That seems more likely than trying to convince him to become a villain. Midoriya cursed internally. That meant when they realized that the rumors surrounding the poor kid were false, they might end up coming after him. Or they figure out what Shinso's real quirk is. He needed to find his little brother, fast. So, any idea where these villains are active? Aizawa shook his head. Teleportation quirk. The Paralysis Guy has been seen all over the place, but we can't pinpoint a base or location because of the teleportation quirk user. Midoriya growled. That means he would have to search the entirety of Japan. Where has he been seen before? Yamada asked. There has to be a range, right? There's no way he can teleport people from all over the world, right? Mostly Hosu, Shibuya, and the cities around here. Aizawa stated. They had found locations, but they just seemed so random. Before he scribbled them on a map that Midoriya somehow had, he wouldn't have thought that all the hit places were around Mizudafu. Then we should search these cities first. Mizudafu is in the middle of this group, and they were recently seen here. It might be a good place since they have a range around these cities. If you don't look at the map from above, people may not think of searching in Mizudafu, just the places that have been hit. Yamada nodded. Well, I think that's it. I'll find stuff and send it. Midoriya pocketed the map before he hopped off the building. Aizawa and Yamada panicked, leaning over the edge, before seeing Midoriya sliding down the building by a water pipe. He hopped off the pipe and ran off into the darkness. This was constructive. Aizawa blinked. Eraser, you're not adopting him. I can see it in your eyes. I'm not. Honestly, if he wasn't a vigilante, maybe. If he wasn't a vigilante, I wouldn't feel safe leaving him alone in the house even if I took him in. Look, focus on Midoriya first. Yamada sighed. His brother is missing. You said that he adopted Shinso. That probably means that there isn't anyone taking care of him. His files are also all under wraps, so we can't get into them. We fix this case first, find Shinso, deal with Midoriya, then maybe we can talk about Akatani. Fine. Midoriya panted as he ran back to his house, climbing in through his window. He had never, ever ran so fast in his life. He wanted to get away from the two heroes, get home, start planning, and maybe patrol if he planned fast enough. As fast as possible. He didn't want to waste even a single second on something meaningless. The faster he sieved through his information and data, the faster he could find Shinso. And with that, Midoriya jabbed the button on the laptop he salvaged, fixed and upgraded from the garbage dump, and got to work. Midoriya grabbed a piece of bread and ran to school, tapping furiously on his phone as he dodged all the pedestrians in his way. He had a plan. He had a list of locations to hit. But he didn't know which order or how to infiltrate them. Tapping furiously as he turned, he thought, what do I need to bring? Do I need to hack it? Should I beat M up, or should I just get information? He dashed into his classroom, dumping his bag on the ground, before yanking a notebook out of his bag and began scribbling furiously. What other equipment should I bring? Do I need to make anything else? It wasn't long before everyone started streaming into the classroom, and they avoided Midoriya, who gave off an aura of absolute chaos. He was a mess, for sure. Shinso's kidnapping was driving him nuts. Hey, Deku. The teacher called. No one called him by his name anymore, just Deku. Midoriya didn't care, honestly. Everyone called him Deku anyway, the teachers calling him that didn't change anything. Midoriya didn't listen as he kept mumbling under his breath and scribbled. Oi. Bakugo turned around, whacking Midoriya's hand. Teacher's calling you. Don't bother me. X is 10, 4, or 5/2. Midoriya looked up, glanced at the question, quickly did a mental calculation and yelled. The teacher gulped. Midoriya never yelled. And he was scary. He wasn't going to call on the green-haired boy, ever, again. At least he seemed to know what he was doing. Aizawa was sure Midoriya's mental state was deteriorating. Either that or he was going crazy. Each time Midoriya burst into the police station asking for information, Aizawa noticed his hair getting even more wild and messy. His eye bags were getting worse. He saw a bottle of coffee in his bag pocket. He slouched a lot. He was originally worried that Shinso's disappearance would take a hit on Midoriya's education. He knew Midoriya wanted to be a hero. He had heard the boy say that once when he went to Aldra to check on his studies subtly. To his surprise, Midoriya was getting full marks in everything. So now, Aizawa was very sure that while Midoriya was set for his exams, his physical state was another problem altogether. There was once that Midoriya had fallen asleep in the police station, waiting for someone to get back to the counter. Both Aizawa and Tsukachi had found him, woke him up, and asked him why the heck he was sleeping there. I don't know. When was the last time you slept? Friday. So. The 22nd. No, 15th, I think. Aizawa was seriously worried. The last time he slept was 2 weeks ago? And was all he drinking just coffee and energy drinks? He didn't even seem to eat anything in school, scribbling in that notebook of his all the time, if what all the students were saying was correct. What was he even eating? Why wasn't he resting? How was he still running about all over the place? Why hasn't he passed out in the middle of the road? And to make things even complicated, Akatani seemed to be having the same problems at Midoriya. He was now gaining a lot of attention for his exploits, taking out villains with a hidden, murderous rage that left villains alive, but traumatized. He had no idea how many times the villains he beat begged the police to lock them up for their crimes and promising about 1,000 times after an encounter with the vigilante. How he managed to do that, Aizawa had no idea. His spelling over the texts had deteriorated. Akatani was usually polite, snarky and sassy sometimes, but he never really raised his voice. Now, he sometimes yelled at Aizawa when he tried to pry too much. He also tripped and almost fell off a building once, if Aizawa hadn't grabbed him with his capture weapon in time. They found Midoriya asleep in the police office again, 2 months later, so Tsukachi ended up letting him sleep in his office. And to his surprise, he never saw or hears anything about Akatani those 2 times. Hopefully he was finally taken Aizawa's and Yamada's constant nagging in the group chat to finally rest and recover before he crashed while out at night. Aizawa just realized he had no idea where Midoriya or Akatani lived. The boy's files were under wraps, and he somehow always knew how to lose Aizawa on the rare cases when he tried to follow him. Akatani always managed to hide from Aizawa, so he couldn't even check on him. He applied to Yue? Yamada asked incredulously. Nizu grinned. He was also part in the investigation, and was also the only other person to know that the 2 pros were collaborating with Akatani. Honestly, that made it a lot easier. They could just say, Nizu said so, and all the other pros just accepted it. That saved a lot of time. Nizu also started having an interest in Akatani from all his deductions and information gathering. Akatani had somehow found out that Nizu knew about him, Yamada probably said it by accident, and mailed a whole file of villains that were possibly working with the 2 kidnappers, along with quirks, weaknesses and other information that was borderline stalkerish. Nizu had tried to sniff out who Akatani was, and checked each piece of paper for fingerprints and other clues of the boy's real identity, but somehow he managed to keep all the papers clean of all his DNA. He couldn't even find a single fingerprint. He really was getting interesting in this kid. He's quirkless? I can see how he'll maybe do well on the written test, since he literally got full marks on the preliminary paper, but what is he supposed to do against robots? Ken said. There's still rescue points. Kiyama pointed out. She was slightly fond of Midoriya, seeing him worry so much about Shinso and doing everything he could to find out more information. Yamada was very surprised when he found Midoriya in the lobby of his radio station one day, giving him a stack of papers about articles he found online, and a narrowed-down version of possible locations that could be their hideouts. She sometimes saw the boy rushing around all over the place, scribbling in that notebook. She was pretty sure she saw him writing in at least 3 of them, or tapping on his phone. Heck, she saw him doing homework simultaneous equations once as he ran past her. Yeah, but honestly, I think he had a good shot at general education. There are 36 slots here, not counting the recommendation students. There's plenty of people here who would be able to destroy the robots in a blink of an eye. Snipes said. If he doesn't get into the hero course, I might want him in my homeroom class. Someone needs to keep an eye on him. You said he doesn't pay attention, and yet he's getting perfect scores. Snipe liked and disliked the boy. He liked how determined the boy was, and he was smart. He was able to think, and had a one-track mind and would do anything to get what he wanted, which was finding Shinso. What he disliked was how little the boy took care of himself. He saw the boy buying bread once. A loaf, the kind that would usually last a day, 2 at most, as his regular stop for breakfast. He only saw Midoriya buying it once a week, and upon further question of the few shops around the area, Midoriya was never seen eating or buying food. Aizawa nodded. He uses his phone under the table as well sometimes. The teachers don't call him out, but honestly I don't even think his classmates know that he uses his phone. He falls asleep sometimes in class, but he never stays asleep for more than an hour. I think he crashes. Stalker. Yamada snorted. Yeah. Someone needs to keep an eye on him. Snipe sighed. Can you just calm the F down for a goddamn second? Bakugo snarled. They had already completed the written exam, and they were waiting for Yamada to very flashily finish explaining the exam. But just sitting still and waiting didn't sit well with Midoriya. He already had to suffer for 10 minutes after finishing the written exam. There was no way he was able to sit through Yamada's introduction without doing anything. Midoriya was scribbling in his ridiculously messy handwriting. Even though Bakugo was sitting right beside him, he had no idea how to decipher Midoriya's scrawls. And Midoriya was very angry that day for some reason that Bakugo didn't know, and his handwriting was even worse than usual. "Excuse me, there are 3 villains stated, but you have shown 4. Why has UA made such a mistake? And you sitting over there? You're not serious about the exam and listening." A blue-haired boy stood up and pointed out. Midoriya growled when he was interrupted. God damn it. His enraged mind was thinking about how to strangle person to the very brink of death before his thoughts were cut off. "Well, excuse me, if you would just wait patiently for Present Mike to finish the instructions, he was about to explain it. And seriously, I already did my research on the exam. The missing robot that you're clearly asking about is called the Zero Pointer. It's a much larger robot than the others, and generally causes mass destruction. You don't get any points for defeating it, and it's very dangerous when in tight spaces. Now if you excuse me, please don't call me out when I clearly know more about the entrance exam than you do, and can afford to not listen to this introduction. I need to focus on something that's much more important, and has someone's life at stake. So if you excuse me, please sit down and let Present Mike continue." Midoriya said in the most flat tone he could use, while growling out his anger to make it very, very clear that he was serious, before sitting down harshly and continued his scribbling. The blue-haired boy just blinked, spluttered, and sat back before he could embarrass himself further. "Oh, he's right about the Zero Pointer." Yamada tried to clear the air, before finishing up the introduction and letting the examinees off to their respective battlegrounds. Bakugo looked at Midoriya worriedly. What had gotten into him these past few months? Midoriya was tapping his feet impatiently as he waited for Yamada to give them the signal to start. He wasn't allowed to bring anything with him, so even his notebooks were stashed away in his bag in the changing room. He was angrily mumbling under his breath about the information he had gathered the previous day. Or more like the information sent to him. His address was placed as the post office's address, and he went to collect his mail every day. However, there was a letter slipped under his door when he had gotten home after talking to the police at night. To Midoriya Izuku, "You know, this kid keeps saying that his big brother will save him. It's disgustingly sweet, how much trust he has in you. We locked him in a dark room. I heard he really, really loves it. Lots of love." It was an understatement to say that Midoriya was enraged when he stomped up to UA the next day, a few hours early for the entrance exam, demanded to see Present Mike and Eraserhead and shoved the letter in their faces. "Can you please stop muttering and tapping your feet? Your antics are disturbing everyone." The same blue-haired boy spoke up, waving his hands robotically. Everyone turned to look at them. "Well, excuse me, it appears that my so-called antics aren't bothering anyone except you. And now you're the one bothering people. If you don't like it, walk away and do something else, geez. Your family are pro-heroes, aren't they? Don't you know how to respect other people, Mr. Ida Tenya, brother of Ida Tensei, who used to go to UA?" Midoriya snapped. His information gathering may have ended up with him researching every single person who may apply to UA. Ida was about to reply when Yamada yelled, "All right, examinees. Break it up. It's going to start soon. I'm pretty sure some of you are just jumpy right now." Everyone turned away from the arguing duo, and with a huff, Ida turned away from Midoriya and walked off. Sure enough, Yamada yelled a few minutes later, "And go! What are you all waiting for? There's no countdowns in real fights. Look at him." Yamada pointed out Midoriya, who had already ran into the battleground, before the rest of the examinees snapped out of their dazes and stampeded in after him. "All right, let's see." Maijima pointed, as Midoriya encountered a 3-pointer as it rounded the corner. Honestly, wearing a tight black tracksuit with red sneakers, Midoriya was ridiculously skinny. There was no doubt Maijima could tell that Midoriya knew how to fight and instead just thought he was a twig. To his surprise, Midoriya just let the robot charge at him and made no move to dodge the attack. When the robot finally got close enough, it struck, lashing out with its metal arms. Midoriya jumped, landing on the robot's arm, before using it to jump higher into the air. He flipped around, and literally kicked the robot's head off. The joints at the neck weren't particularly strong, but the fact that he just kicked the robot's head off so easily took them all by surprise. A three-pointer turned the corner, and Midoriya looked up. A laser shot through the robot, and he grabbed the arm of the robot he just destroyed, and used it as a shield as shrapnel rained down on him. "Sorry, I didn't see you there." The blonde boy with a French accent grinned. "I don't think we'll see each other again." Midoriya was at a huge disadvantage, as they could all see. His combat ability was good, and his analysis and information gathering skills were awesome, but against mindless robots, other people with long-ranged quirks or strength quirks just had it a lot easier. Midoriya's skills were better against things that could think and react. He managed to get 15 points because of his head start, but once everyone caught up, Midoriya no longer stood a chance. "It's a pity." Yagi sighed. Nizu slammed the glaring red button down. The ground shook, and a robot emerged from the ground. Midoriya groaned. He knew he didn't have enough points, and it was near the end of the exam if Nizu decided to unleash the zero-pointer. He saw everyone running from the robot, and a cry of help rang out. It was the girl with the gravity quirk, Uraraka Ochako. She was pinned down by a large slab of concrete, and Midoriya could see blood pooling out. Midoriya groaned again. He couldn't just leave here there. He raced towards the zero-pointer. It was just large, but it was slow. Very, very slow. Aizawa's eyes were glued on the screen, as were Kiyama's, Yagi's, Kan's, Snipe's and Nizu's. "What are you doing? You'll die!" A red-haired boy yelled. "Kirishima Ijiro. Hardening quirk. Shut up. If you have time to talk, toss that to me." Midoriya screeched, pointing at a metal pole fair distance away from the zero-pointer. Kirishima immediately raced over and picked up the pole as Midoriya charged at the robot. He poked another guy with 6 arms, Shoji Mizo, who had the dupli arms quirk, and the stronger teen tossed the pole over at Midoriya. He caught the pole swiftly, and Sumiyomi with yellow hair yelled, "Watch out!" Midoriya promptly swatted away some rubble that was about to fall on him with the pole, and he casually turned back to see who had yelled. Kaminari Denki, the electrification quirk guy. He turned back to the zero-pointer. The robot was huge, and Midoriya promptly pried off the control panel on its leg with the pole. It would be dumb to put the control panel on its head, especially when the DMN thing was so big. You'd fall off the robot just trying to screw the panel back on. He dug the pole into the control panel, wrecking the circuitry, and the robot spluttered to a halt. "Are you okay?" Midoriya called out to Uraraka. "My leg." The slab of concrete was huge. She's be lucky if her leg could still be fixed, even with the help of Recovery Girl. "And that's it. The exam's over." "And you?" Midoriya pointed at Shoji and Kirishima. "Help me try to get that thing off her." Kirishima agreed way too easily. Shoji did so as well, but he looked a bit more hesitant. The 3 of them tried to push the concrete slab upwards, but the DMN thing was heavy. Midoriya growled. "Stupid concrete slab. Someone dragged that stupid robot over here." He growled. No one made a move until he heard a hesitant, "That one, Karo?" "No, it's totally that other one that's all the way over there." He snapped sarcastically. Azuitsu frog quirk. He grabbed a handful of wires in the zero-pointer's control panel and started fiddling with them. A plain-faced boy, the boy with the tape quirk, Sirohanta, grabbed the robot with tape, and with the help of the Sugar Rush user, they dragged it over to the green-haired boy. They watched as Midoriya picked the robot apart, before someone yelped, "Wait, aren't you the demon of Mizudafu?" "I'm not a goddamned demon, goddammit." Midoriya screeched. "Wait, what demon? You guys haven't heard of it? There's rumors of a purple-haired monster in Mizudafu. There apparently are seen with a green-haired boy that goes to Aldra Junior High. I heard he used to be very timid and people walked all over him, but one day he just snapped and flipped 2 students over and smashed them into the ground. Though recently the purple-haired person hasn't been seen, so people think they're plotting something. You guys might want to shut up, Karo. He looks mad." Azui said. Midoriya was mad. Very mad. His little brother was 5, for God's sake. He couldn't plot a single thing, and he was too sweet to even think of such a vile thing. His hands were shaking in rage, some wires out, and tore more wires apart harshly with his teeth, before fixing them together. He yanked out some metal and proceeded to break them into smaller usable pieces, before smashing the whole thing together, held in place with Ciro's tape. Stray wires stuck out of the smaller, hastily made contraption, but Midoriya didn't care about the aesthetics now. He yanked the makeshift joystick, and Sato, Kirishima and Ciro yelped as the robot's giant arms started moving. They, along with Shoji, scrambled away as the arms slowly made its way towards Uraraka. "What are you doing?" Ida yelled. "Shut up. I know what I'm doing. You'll crush her. If you don't shut up, I'll end up crushing her by accident, damn it." Midoriya growled as he carefully punched a few buttons on the control panel and wiggled the joystick. The hand opened up, grabbed the concrete slab, and lifted it off Uraraka, who sighed as the pressure was taken off her leg. Shizenji appeared not too long after, healing Uraraka's broken leg. "So, he knew the control panel was in the leg?" Maijima asked. "Apparently so." Aizawa sighed. Midoriya had barely passed the exam with his rescue points and his 15 measly. He was unlucky that his eventual rescue of Uraraka from the concrete slab didn't count, as it took place after the exam ended. He had passed, sure, but there were many people who had gotten a much higher score from villain points. Like Bakugo Katsuki. 92 villain points, 0 rescue points. Or Kirishima Ijiro, 48 villain points, 35 rescue points. The tabulated scores finally showed up on their screens. In 37th place, Midoriya Izuku. 15 villain points, 32 rescue points. Aizawa sighed. Midoriya still had a shot at general education. He did apply for that as well and passed. Aizawa wondered how he was going to take it. Hopefully he would take it well. And he could try again during the sports festival. Shinso was scared. That was an understatement. It was dark everywhere. There wasn't a hint of light anywhere he could see. He remembered his body refusing to listen to him. He remembered Midoriya seeing him with the strange man. He remembered his older brother yelling his name as he lunged at them. He remembered his vision turning black. He shifted uncomfortably. He could feel the cool chains around his wrist, clanking against each other with every movement he made. The eerie clanking resonated throughout the room, echoing around. Why was it so dark? Shinso clutched the small, cool, metal feather that hung on a chain around his neck. Midoriya had given it to him when they celebrated their birthdays on the day right smack between both their birthdays, a few days after he was locked in the closet. He remembered Midoriya hunched over his desk, calmly telling him to sleep as he held a small penknife in one hand and a kitchen lighter in his other. Feathers come from birds. They aren't weighed down by the laws of gravity. We'll find our place, our freedom in this world full of discrimination one day. You're allowed to fly higher than other people. Don't ever let other people weigh you down, and don't ever give up hope, Toshi. I said I'll save you whenever something happens. If I don't come immediately, I'll get there eventually. I'll always be with you, Toshi, no matter where you are. Midoriya had said, when he carefully clasped the metal chain around Shinso's neck. It was light. Shinso liked how it glinted in the light. He always kept it hidden under his shirt when he went to school, scared that the other kids might take it. He always liked the feel of the cool metal pressing against his chest when he attempts to curl up in a ball in a corner of the preschool room to stay as far away from the other kids as possible. It was comforting. This time, it was no different. The cool metal of the feather and the necklace felt different from the restricting chains that were wrapped around his wrists. He tried to relax his breathing. Aizu will come for me. I just have to wait. But he knew it wouldn't be so simple. He knew Midoriya was just a teenager. A kid forced to grow up way too fast. He knew that he wasn't dealing with bullies or biased teachers. These people knew what they were doing. They killed people. He saw him kill someone. They were villains. He knew it wouldn't be as simple as the time that he was locked in the dark, foreboding metal closet. He wanted to get out. He wanted to go home, to the only person on the entire planet that cared about him and loved him. He remembered Midoriya's expression as he lunged at them. His eyes were full of anger, desperation, guilt, sadness, worry, and fear. Fear wasn't an expression he saw on Midoriya's face often. He had seen it when Midoriya rescued him from the cupboard. He saw it whenever Midoriya came to school, and saw him hiding in a corner when there was another kid and their parent. But that feeling of fear in Midoriya's eyes, it was 1,000 times more potent than Shinso had ever seen him before. He curled in on himself. The metal feather was pressed against his skin, and he tried to steady his breathing. Aizu will come for me. Maybe not now, but he'll save me. It hurt. A lot. Shinso didn't know when was the last time it stopped hurting. He didn't even know how long he had stayed in this place. They liked to hurt him. Told him to brainwash people. Told him to do stuff he never, ever wanted to do. He didn't want to do it. He never agreed. His arms hurt where they grabbed him. His ankles and wrists were sore from the chains when they dragged him around. His neck was aching from the heavy metal collar they had put on him a few days after he was pulled away from Midoriya. His lungs were screaming in protest as he coughed. Everything hurt. He wanted to sleep. But if he slept, they'll hurt him. They always hurt him. If he stayed awake, they wouldn't hurt him. But if he slept, they'll hurt him more. A lot more. Aizu will come for me. Aizu will come for me. Aizu will. Brat, we heard ya the first 1,000 times already. A man snarled. Shinso jumped. He didn't realize that he had said that out loud. Yeah. That brother of yours ain't coming. Another laughed. We won't ever be caught. This is a secluded location, kiddo. You'll never be found. Just listen to us and you'll have your freedom back. Hey, the green-haired kid ran into the station again today. How many times has he done that already today? The first man laughed. I dunno. It's a Sunday. I think this is the 3rd time he has done that. Doesn't he visit the station every day or something? They all roared in laughter. Shinso perked up. He won't come. He doesn't know where to look. He won't get anywhere, and he'll eventually forget about you and move on with his life, brat. One of them said, seeing Shinso's hopeful expression. Shinso didn't care. Midoriya was still looking for him. He still cared. That's all Shinso needed. He'll come save me eventually. I just have to wait. The pain only got worse. His ribs were sore. His throat was parched. His stomach was protesting. His lungs hurt. He didn't know when was the last time he ate or drank something. His ribs were hurting the most. They apparently decided that Shinsuo was a very nice football and literally kicked him around. His back was sore from the constant impacts against the wall. Shinso was very surprised that he hasn't broken anything yet. Or maybe they were broken and he just couldn't feel it cause everything hurt so much. They still wanted him to use his quirk. Brainwash people. Do bad things. Though one of the instructions confused him. Summon a demon. What? Yeah, Shinso had no idea what they wanted with him. Maybe he was going mad. The feather was pressed against his skin uncomfortably. But he had no intention to move from his position on the ground. He'll come. He knew what they wanted. They kept repeating it over and over. They wanted to break him. Shinso refused to give in. He wanted to be a hero just like Midoriya. He wanted to save people, not harm people, god damn it. Until they called in the brown-haired person. The one that paralyzed him. He hated how his body didn't react to him. He hated that he was helpless to do anything. He hated how he couldn't even use his quirk to find some relief from the pain because he had quirk suppressing cuffs and it wasn't like he could brainwashing himself to not feel the pain. He still refused to give in. They also wanted Izuku. They wanted the supposed demon of Mizudafu. Shinso didn't want them to hurt Midoriya. Once he gave up, they'll use him to get to Midoriya. He knew it. They said so. They were just waiting for him to break. He wasn't going to break. Midoriya deserved the world. Heck, Shinso did not even know what he did to get someone as loving as Midoriya. Did he think he deserved Midoriya? Nope. His quirk was bad. Everyone said he was bad. No one wanted him. His mom didn't want him. But he ended up with the most loving and caring person in the whole entire world. Midoriya, the one who ran himself ragged all the time to keep up preschool, his own education, and all the other adult things that needed to be done, just to make sure that Shinso was happy and they were able to live semi-normally. Shinso didn't want his brother to get hurt just because he couldn't handle getting hurt. He didn't want to be a villain anyways. So when the paralysis finally faded from his limbs, he shakily curled up into a ball, careful to avoid aggravating the injury to his side that he had gotten when they decided to try stabbing him. He had been very lucky that the villains sometimes took the time to clean him up, washing the dried blood of his skin and off his hair. His clothes were still torn and broken, and oversized on the smaller boy, but at least they were clean too. They never bother bandaging his injuries, though, and they stung under the water. He clutched the necklace from under his shirt, and wrinkled his nose, trying not to let the smell of rotting flesh bother him. I can take this. I'm not gonna let them hurt my brother. Aizu will come for me. Paralysis isn't fun. Shinso didn't like the brown-haired guy with piercing red eyes. But he decided he didn't like this new guy even more. He had purple hair, just like him, but instead of it being fluffed up, it lay slick against his skull. His purple eyes were cold and calculating, and held no warmth in it. Heck, even the other villains and paralysis guy eventually left the boy alone after roughing him up. This new guy looked like he could murder everyone and not feel a hint of remorse. And how the heck did Shinso know that? There were corpses in the room. Shinso never saw them before, and his shackles weren't long enough for him to move around that much. Speaking of which, he was sure the skin around his wrists and ankles were probably raw by now. But he couldn't really check in the dark. Only when they entered the room to collect him, that was the few times that light flooded into the room he was in. Once his eyes finally adjusted, he was able to make out the corpses, the rotting, deteriorating corpses, from the shadows. Shinso didn't know how to feel. At first he thought they were just mounds of dirt and blood, until a freshly dead body was literally dumped next to him. That was when he realized what they were, and he was pretty sure that wanted to W up the first time he finally realized what they were. His stomach was churning with a mixture of emotions: fear, disgust, pity, sadness, and even more fear. Shinso didn't like how the man looked at him. His eyes glinting in the minimal light like Shinso was some kind of puzzle that he needed to break apart to the very atoms. Shinso did not like the predatory gaze he had. Heck, he'd rather get paralyzed, beaten up, electrocuted, and maybe even stabbed a few times than to be in this new person's presence. Actually, he'd rather go back home. Midoriya's house, not his original birth home. He didn't even know where he originally lived before Midoriya picked him up. He wanted to be back home with Midoriya. He wanted that warm, comforting hugs. He wanted to nuzzle into Midoriya's shirt and feel the older boy's hand ruffled his hair gently, twirling each strand delicately, never pulling or tugging too hard. He just wanted to be able to see his surroundings, the desk that Midoriya worked at, tools and scraps spilled over the ground instead of dark rotting guts and other insides Shinso was sure was supposed to stay inside the human body, and feel the soft fabric of the bed. He tensed up involuntarily, twitching as pain flared through his side, as the man walked closer. Hitoshi, it's been so long since I've last seen you. Shinso flinched. I still remember, you were so small, and you just cried. A lot. You've grown up, no? Shinso was confused, hurting a lot, and still very much confused. He was too tired to form a coherent sentence. I don't suppose you remember me. I've only seen you 5 years ago, I suppose. But you're here now. We're family now, after all. Shinso didn't like the way the man said that. Midoriya was his only family. No one else wanted him out of the goodness out of their heart like Midoriya did. They always wanted something from him. This man was no different. He scrambled away from the man, breathing in harshly as his spine was pressed up against the wall. He curled up and tried to get as far away from the man as possible. Just calm down. Just wait it out. Izuku will come eventually. He just has too much on his plate and these guys are smart and can hide. He'll come. He still likes me. He still loves and cares about me. He's not going to abandon me like everyone else did. He'll come. I just have to wait. Midoriya sighed when he opened the letter, skimming over the words searching for the phrase, "You didn't get into the hero course." He knew he didn't get into the hero course from villain points, and he didn't really care anyway. There was still the sports festival. He didn't have time to wallow in self-pity. It was robots. He couldn't do sheet against robots anyway. He needed to find his little brother. He slipped on his mask, pulled up his hood and slid out his window. Bakugu sat on his table. He didn't know if Midoriya had gotten into the hero course, or even UA. He had started going a bit crazy about 9 months ago, and 2 months ago, at the entrance exam, had gone a bit more crazy than he thought was healthy. A lot more crazy. He was glad that Midoriya could stand up for himself, sure. But he didn't know what to feel when he sees Midoriya rushing all over the place, mumbling at breakneck speed and generally being tired, sleepy, angry, easily set off, cranky, and generally not taking care of himself. This random guy called Ida Tenya had yelled at him for keeping his feet on the desk. Wasn't he the guy that Midoriya called out before the practical exam? Then there was this other girl called Uraraka Ochako that entered. And she immediately ended up in a conversation with Ida, a guy with many arms called Shoji Mizo, another semi-bulky guy called Sato Rikido, a Pikachu blonde called Kaminari Denki, a frog girl called Azuitiu, the tape boy Siro Hanta, and a redhead called Kirishima Ijiro. He let out a sharp bark of laughter when he overheard them talking about this supposed demon of Mizudafu. Deku really made a name for himself, huh? He was behind by a long shot. He needed to stop relying on his quirk so much. His occasional spars with Midoriya before he went off the rails told him that much. He eyed the man in the sleeping bag that emerged from the sleeping bag. Looks like Midoriya didn't get into the hero course. Pity. Bakugo snorted when Aizawa declared this person with a wind quirk whose name he didn't bother to remember, and a grape-haired boy, with no potential, and immediately expelled them. To be fair, one was a major pervert and the other wasn't even taking the trials seriously, even with Aizawa's threat of expelling students. He got what he deserved. I mean, he FNG threatened us and you still goofed around and pretended to drop the softball. You dumb or some sheet. That was until Aizawa dismissed everyone else. Bakugo, you went to Aldra, right? Bakugo blinked and nodded. Alright, stay back for a second. And you ate. Uraraka, Ida, Kirishima, Kaminari, Shoji, Siro, Sato, Azui. You're not in trouble, I just want to talk. The 9 students, literally half the class at this point, looked at Aizawa, forming a semicircle around the pro-hero. Bakugo, what is Midoriya like in middle school? How is he being treated? Bakugo tensed up. Why was he asking about Midoriya? It's for a case. He's involved in it and I'm afraid he's running on fumes at this point. Aizawa said, almost as if he read his mind. Deku? He was really timid. He got bullied a lot when he was younger over quirk problems. But recently, I think around 3 or 4 years ago, he started fighting for himself. So people started called him a demon cause he's actually not a timid piece of shit. Bakugo frowned, though a few months ago he's been really wound up over something. I've never seen him so angry or set off before. The 8 students essayed in a breath. This was about the demon of Mizudafu? Aizawa sighed. Alright you 8. What do you know about this? Demon of Mizudafu. I heard you talking about him before I started. Uraraka raised her hand. Has anger problems? He snapped at everyone in the entrance exam, but I think he's a nice person because he saved me from the 0-pointer. He's manly. He saved her. But he's a bit. What's a nice way to say it? Crazy? Temperamental? Sato suggested. Yeah. But he knows what he's doing. Is he in class 1B? I thought he would have made it into the hero course. Kaminari asked. But they won't want someone like that, do they? I mean, Bakugo's here and he swears a lot. I don't see why he shouldn't be accepted. That's enough. Aizawa sighed. I know he might not have made the best impression on you, but there's a lot going on for him now. I won't reveal much, but he's having it rough now. I hope you won't hold it against him. The 9 students blinked. Aizawa was fond of someone? Their scary homeroom teacher that literally expelled 2 kids? Bakugo had already left the school when the 8 students still talking, taking their time as they walked out of their classroom, when they saw something on the ground. A phone. And a notebook. Ida hesitantly picked it up. The screen was cracked, the cover looked worse for wear, and he was sure there was tape holding the entire thing together. He turned the phone on to see whose phone it was. Staring back at the 8 students were emerald and lilac eyes. The green-haired boy was smiling with a smile so bright, it rivaled that of the sun. One hand was holding the phone up in the selfie, the other in a victory sign. The other purple-haired boy, who looked a lot younger, was staring at the camera in awe, a small smile on his face as he held up a pencil. They were adorable. Uraraka was screeching internally from the pure cuteness of the selfie that was the owner's wallpaper. Kirishima hesitantly picked up the notebook. It looked like it had been through hell. The cover was crumpled, and a very messy Midoriya Izuku was scrawled on it. "Where is it?" They heard a voice and jumped. A green-haired boy, just like the one in the picture, ran into the hallway from a classroom. "Midoriya Izuku?" Sato hesitantly asked. "Huh." The green-haired boy replied, before looking at the group, eyes glued on the items in their hands. "I think you dropped these." Kaminari mumbled. Midoriya's face lit up, and he ran over to them. No running, Ida started to saw, before Midoriya grabbed his phone and notebook from them and started thanking them profusely. "Oh, you guys. Sorry I was so rude in the entrance exam. Something happened and I was just really mad and I didn't mean to take it out on you." "That's fine. I'm glad you feel better." Uraraka grinned. Midoriya shot them a small, tired smile, before he turned his phone screen on. "Nah, is that your little brother?" "Yeah. He's the best person ever." Midoriya sighed. "He's the sweetest kid, always kind and polite." All 8-1A students could practically feel the love that washed off the green-haired boy when he talked about his brother. "Oh, I've stayed long enough. Thanks for helping me find my things." Midoriya gave a small smile, trying to ignore the painful aching in his heart as he tried to act nice in front of the Hero Corps students, before he ran off, down the hallways. "See, he's not so bad." Uraraka grinned. "Maybe he has split personality. I honestly cannot see how this Midoriya and the Midoriya at the entrance exam are the same person." Zero scratched his head. Midoriya was sure his class hated him. Snipe was his homeroom teacher, apparently. He had nothing against the pro hero, just that he was very, very annoyed that they still had no concrete leads on anything. They didn't have lessons, just orientation, which Midoriya felt was a dead waste of time. He had stayed back in UA to finish scribbling some ideas before he went out to patrol. When he left, he was in such a hurry, he didn't realize that he had dropped some stuff. His normal phone and his notebook. He really needed to fix that dead hole in his bag. So when he saw the 8 Hero Corps students he recognized yelling at during the entrance exam, he was confused. Until they returned his stuff. The next few days were normal. He didn't talk to anyone, no one wanted to talk to him either. Apparently his reputation as the demon of Muzutafu was enough to ward anyone away. He didn't care. The less people that bothered him, the more time he had to compile information. He spent way too many lunches speaking with Aizawa, Yamada and Nizu in the principal's office, arguing with them, and he was pretty sure his classmates felt he was either psycho, nuts, insane, weird, and probably a lot of more other things. They didn't matter. Shinso did. He didn't want to interact. It was a waste of time. They were too loud. So he was understandably very, very, very mad and tense when he entered school one day and saw the press hounding all the students. "What do you think of All Might teaching here?" Midoriya was way too nice to flip the reporter off. Instead, he just pushed him away harshly. He recognized Ida trying to chase a reporter away, and Uraraka trying to get away from some others. "Excuse me. What the heck do you think you're doing?" Midoriya growled, walked up to the duo and pulling them away from the reporters. "This is harassment of minors. I don't care if you want to talk with All Might or something, just wait for him to stop some crime and find him or something. You're disturbing students, pro teachers, and in general just being a huge goddamn nuisance, and I'm not in the mood to deal with you sheets now. So get away from here and stop bothering everyone." The reporters all tensed up as their attention was stuck on the green-haired boy that was literally glaring daggers at them. Some grateful students used that opportunity to slip past the press, before Aizawa and Yamada came along to chase them away. "Hey, thanks, Midoriya." Uraraka sighed. "I had no idea how to answer them." "Yes. Your help is very much appreciated." Ida continued. "Just say All Might doesn't teach you and they'll leave you alone." Midoriya groaned. Uraraka and Ida noticed the way Midoriya said All Might's name with venom. Maybe he had a bad experience with him. or he was just really annoyed. The reporters were here because of him, after all. Midoriya had fallen asleep at his desk during lunch when the alarms blared through the school. What now? Which idiot is dumb enough to breach UA's security? Midoriya groaned to himself out loud. He turned to look at what had happened, and Midoriya felt like screeching in complete annoyance and anger. It was the God-Med press. Can't those idiotic pieces of sheet just leave them alone? Seeing as no one was around, Midoriya just yanked open the window, jumped down 2 floors, and made his way to the gate. He was close enough to hear some of the reporters yelling. Just give us an answer or a statement. Yeah. This is real mature. Midoriya's voice rang out. You're acting like a bunch of babies fighting for a cookie. And you call yourself the press. You're just a disorganized bunch of people who are desperate for new stuff to jibber-jabber about. Look here. He growled, letting his aura flare out a little. You pieces of sheet are causes mass panic in there. You're disturbing students and disrupting their education. And I'm pretty sure that none of you sheets was able to make a hole in the God-Med wall, or you would have done that when you idiotically decided to trigger the wall this morning. So that means you're probably working with a criminal who has the ability to do so. This is vandalism, harassment, and I'm pretty sure I can list about 40 more laws that you guys just broke. Just to get a statement from All Might. The reporters flinched as Midoriya slowly walked towards them, his hands in his pockets. I'm tired of people like you, who think that you should get what you want just because you asked and you think you deserve it. Pro-heroes have jobs. It's to save people, not to entertain you. Hero society already is as messed up as it is cause some people just want to be famous or well-known, and they don't care about the true essence of being a hero. So basically, to make it easier for a bunch of little kids screaming that they should get whatever they want to understand, the press messes up the true meaning of being a hero. Aizawa was impressed. Midoriya knew what he wanted, knew what he was talking about. He knew Midoriya hated Enji, and there were many heroes like him who didn't care about collateral damage or just did it for the fame. The reporters were scared stiff of Midoriya, and Aizawa could see how he had earned his title as the demon of Mizudafu. But he personally found it hilarious that a bunch of reporters that had no problems hounding him and Yamada, one underground hero and one relatively well-known hero, were scared shitless of a teenager that was shorter than them all. Midoriya's breath hitched as he froze. That warm, fuzzy feeling in his gut had burst into a wildfire. Something was gonna happen. And soon. Maybe he could get a doctor's note and call in sick, then use the time to patrol. Aizawa wouldn't be able to check on him since he's have to teach. He hurriedly tapped into UA's security frequency before he made his way to the clinic. Heck, he was pretty sure he didn't even need a doctor's note to skip school, but then he didn't want Aizawa and Yamada to worry more. The more they worried, the less time he's have to patrol. Better to play it safe now. Aizawa sighed for the umpteenth time. He originally wanted to convince Midoriya to come on the field trip on the excuse that he wanted to use Midoriya's analysis abilities. In actuality, he wanted to let the boy spar to let off some steam. The kid was like a wound-up spring that was gonna snap any time. But apparently he called in sick. He even sent a picture of a doctor's note as proof. Who was Aizawa to deny the kid rest when the kid needed it? I have a bad feeling about this. Aizawa sighed. 1A was being noisy. Very noisy. And Aizawa groaned. The bus ride to the USJ wasn't supposed to be eventful, but Med everyone was being annoying. Kaminari was a nuisance, Bakugo was getting set off, and Kirishima and Siro were plain annoying. Midoriya flinched when he heard what the handman said. So, just Eraserhead, 13 and All Might. Yes. The misty purple man replied. Good. Let's get ready to crash the USJ. Are all the rest of the villains ready? Yes. Alright. Get everyone to their zones and get the signals jammed. Then we'll strike. Midoriya crept back up the vents. All Might had exhausted his time already. All Might, you God-Med idiot. And Aizawa couldn't fight a whole horde of villains on his own. 13 was a rescue hero. They didn't really know how to fight offensively. And the kids? They had no real battle experience with real villains. He needed to find Shinso. That meant that something like this couldn't get in his way. If this thing blew up, it would be even harder to find that Med kidnapper. He quickly made his way to UA. His student card was with him, so he was able to pass through the gates quickly. UA was huge and the USJ was a pretty far distance away. Enough time for him to try to figure out how to unjam the DMED signals and send a note to Yagi and Nizu. They wanted to crash the USJ? Well, he was doing the same too then. Yup. Aizawa was not expecting a god DMED portal to appear out of nowhere. God damn it. Aizawa moved forwards to protect the students when he heard a creaking sound. He whirled around, just as the metal doors to the USJ were pried open with a crowbar. A familiar head clad in green and a mask popped in. Sup, Eraserhead. I'm here to crash the party. How did you get past security, Akatani? Don't ask. Midoriya replied, the students parting to let Midoriya through. It's Akatani? In the flesh. Kirishima gasped. 13 aimed their finger at him. 13. Let him pass. Aizawa ordered. Senpai, are you sure it's okay for him to be here? 13 asked as he turned towards Aizawa, who nodded. Midoriya made his way to Aizawa's side. Since you're here, problem child, got anything on these villains? Midoriya nodded. Shigaraki Tamura. Quirk, decay. If he touches you with all 5 fingers, you're dust. He can't turn it on or off. That's Kurogiri, Quirk, Warp Gate. Teleports sheet around. Not sure about the black thingy, but they came here to take out All Might. The rest are just thugs. They want to separate you from the kids, teleport them and dump them all over USJ, and then get the black thing to take out All Might, I think. I already tried to inform Nizu, but there's a jamming signal with a 10-meter radius around the USJ. Midoriya whipped out his phone and checked it. I already set a program to hack through it, but my phone's slower than my laptop. It will take some time for the message to get through, and for them to come. And Yagi is an idiot. Aizawa sighed. He was right. Yagi had stupidly used up his time and now they were stuck with villains that probably thought they had the power to take him down. Looks like you got it all sorted out. How did you know all this? Overheard the conversation, and maybe hacked a bit more. Aizawa sighed again. I recommend you not getting into a fight with them. You should get them out of here. Keep an eye on Mist Face and Facepalm. They're troublesome. The kids trust you, so see ya, Eraser. Midoriya hollered as he leapt down the stairs before Aizawa could do anything. Akatani! You idiot! You can't take all of them by yourself. Aizawa growled, leaping after him. We should get out of here. 13 blinked as they made their way to the door. 13 promptly exited up the remainder of the door for the students to rush out. God damned, how the heck did that green vigilante fit through that godmed hole? It was so small. Even Hagakure would have problems getting out and she had no equipment at all. 13 turned around. The bus that transported them to the USJ was nowhere to be seen. The students were safe for now. Ida, go to school and alert them. Akatani may have sent out an alert, but they might not have gotten it yet. Midoriya kept the villains near the staircase away. He kept pulling Aizawa back whenever he strayed too far from the stairs. What are you up to now? Trust me. The jammed signals aren't the only thing I'm working through now. His phone gave a small ding, and Midoriya grabbed Aizawa and made their way out. Gimme a sec. Midoriya fumbled with his phone. Anyone knows how to play bullet hell games? He asked B students, who were staring at him dumbfounded. No one? Okay. Midoriya started tapping on his phone furiously, and cries of anguish rang out from the USJ. What are you doing? Aizawa raised an eyebrow. Control room. Midoriya grumbled. He didn't like hacking into UA, but he didn't have the firepower to fight so many people head-on, and Niza did equip the USJ with plenty of toys. He cackled as he slammed a crane arm into an electric villain, before switching to the landslide zone to trigger an earthquake. His phone was upgraded to handle stuff like this, but it was slower when it came to hacking. Or maybe the connection was poor. Whatever. 13, can I blow the ship up? O.K. 13 hesitantly replied. Kirishima and Kaminari gawked as Midoriya tapped away furiously, watching him as he showed the rest of the still very much dumbfounded and confused students the camera of the ship, before it exploded, sending tens of villains flying as a wave that rivaled a tsunami crashed into the shore. You're a riot problem child. Aizawa sighed again, before Toshinori popped out of nowhere in his all-might form. Finally! You're late! Midoriya groaned. Have fun. Before anyone else could react, Midoriya ran off. Does anyone just get in there? Aizawa snorted, pushing Yagi into the USJ, just as a horde of teachers came stampeding in behind him around 5 minutes later. Thank gods Midoriya wasn't here, Aizawa thought. He and Akatani would have gotten along so well, they would literally start a riot. Probably. UA was closed for a bit because of the villain attack. None of the students had to go to school on Friday, and Midoriya had spent entire weekends switching between his student and vigilante personas. Aizawa was checking in with Akatani, while Midoriya was chewing another police officer out. It was problematic, but if he had to put up with it to find Shinso, so be it. He was glad he managed to get Aizawa out of harm's way though. Otherwise there would be one less hero to help with the investigation was actually nice and helpful. He actually liked Aizawa and Yamada, but he didn't have the time to actually think about it. He wanted to go check on Bakugo and the other 8 students he met in the hallway, just to make sure they were okay, since he left way before the entire thing was resolved. But then he ended up crashing from the lack of energy and fell asleep during lunch because he forgot to buy coffee that morning. To us. Awkward when Yamada had to shake him awake for English lessons, though honestly Yamada wanted to let him sleep more. But then there would favoritism. People will complain. So after lessons, just so he wouldn't look too suspicious to the other kids, he packed up his things and headed off to the hero course classrooms. He was a lot slower than all the other students because of that ridiculously heavy feeling in his chest, and he was very, very sure it wasn't because he had gotten hammered in the chest by a villain the night before. Gods, why was his heart hurting so much? Why did it feel so heavy? Why did the guilt feel like it was about to swallow him whole? Why did he just feel like jumping off a cliff just to end that ridiculous pain in his chest that he knew was more emotional than physical? Why did it hurt so much? His chest felt tight, like he couldn't breathe. His lungs couldn't work. Why did it hurt so goddamn much today? Get out of my way, extras. Hey, he's coming? Who? The Midoriya kid. You know, the crazy one. A few gasps rang out. Don't say his name, idiot. You'll summon the demon. The demon is here? Let's get out of here. The horde of students thinned out immediately, and Bakugo let out a very angry, huh? Jiru, Yaoyorozu, Aoyama, Ashido, Ojiro, Koda, Tokoyami, Todoroki and Hagakure blinked, confused. He's here. Uraraka grinned. Minoma, Tetsutetsu, Tokage and Kendo just looked at the green-haired boy as he slowly made his way to the classroom. Gods, the kid was so small. And he looked like he was exhausted. And everyone was pushing and shoving to the sides of the hallway even though there was plenty of space, before running off as Midoriya passed them. The boy straightened up when he got to the door. That nickname is so old already, Deku. Bakugo snorted. Midoriya just rolled his eyes. Tell that to them. Glad to see you're not dead yet, Kaken. Breaths hitched. Everyone knew how explosive Bakugo was to nicknames. Heck, he almost exploded Kirishima for calling him Explody and Kaminari for calling him Bakubro. Phew, Deku. Bakugo retorted, grinning. So, sports festival, huh? You better fix that right hook of yours, Kaken. You don't want me to throw you out of the ring just cause you're predictable, do you? Bakugo just growled, like hell. We always sparred quirkless cause of you're useless, but this time, I can use my quirk, so it ain't gonna be that easy to just toss me out of the ring, F-face. Midoriya raised an eyebrow at the swears. Speaking of which, why the hell aren't you in the FING hero course, Deku? I don't know. You tell me. Midoriya shrugged. What the heck do you expect me to do against a horde of robots that are at least 3 times my size? Nothing. Exactly, Kaken. Smart boy. Midoriya drawled, trying to ignore that oh-so-painful burning in his chest. Don't you know how to hack? Yeah, and break school security? It's sheet, you know. And you know that. How? Hey, didn't that vigilante at the USJ hack into the control room? Midoriya growled. Bakugo in a breath, How the heck did you know that? Midoriya bit his lip. He shouldn't have said that. I know stuff, Kaken. A lot of stuff. A lot more than you ever will. Stop acting like you're better than me. Midoriya let out a snort. He turned to leave. Well, I guess I better get going. You better not disappoint, Kaken. He turned and accidentally slammed into the door frame by accident, rubbing his eyes. What the actual Deku? I'm just tired. Jeez. Stop yelling like a maniac. Bakugo grabbed his arm, whirling Midoriya around. He noticed Midoriya's eye bags, and how terribly exhausted and tired he looked. When's the last time you FNG God Dmed slept a whole? Lunchtime. Before that face. 15th. What the F is wrong with you, Deku? It's the 14th. Bakugo snarled. Exactly. You haven't slept in a God Dmed month? I was busy, Kaken. Midoriya snapped. Busy with what? What the F? Is so God Dmed even important that you haven't slept for a month? Why the F aren't you taking care of yourself? You better say something, Deku, before I beat it out of you myself. You're not my mom, Kaken. I don't have to tell you shit. The Hero Corps students just watched them banter, gulping as the air between them grew thick with tension. Then where the F is your mom? Lying in a grave, probably. Midoriya growled. My dad burnt her alive. Gods. Bakugo gasped. Who the F is taking care of you now? I can take care of myself, Kaken. Thank you very much. I don't need a stupid caretaker. I ain't that useless. Bakugo grabbed his arm even tighter. Look, Deku. If you haven't slept for a month, then you aren't taking care of yourself. Well, I'm still alive. I have all my limbs intact. It's not like I'm suicidal or want to jump off a roof or something. Yeah. One day, you're gonna fall off the FING roof by accident cause you're so tired. Been there, done that already, Kaken. What the actual Deku? Why? What the heck happened to you, Deku? I grew up, Kaken. Wanting to be a hero is a pipe dream if I can't even save the only person I care about. Midoriya felt that ache in his heart again, growing stronger, heavier. He wanted to puke, to just hunch over and drop dead. The pain was unbearable. Bakugo stepped back, seeing the absolutely chaotic aura Midoriya was giving off, filled with grief, guilt, anger, and so many negative emotions that he felt like was being swallowed whole by this whirlwind of negativity. Deku, shut it, Kaken. Stop treating me like something that needs to be protected. I'm not made of glass. I can take care of my God Dmed self. Midoriya lost it. He grabbed Bakugo's collar and dragged him down to eye level. You'll never understand. All of you. All of you were born with the perfect hero quirks that are just flashy or destructive. It's sheet. Society is sheet. You either have a perfect quirk or you're practically trash. I only have one thing to live for, and that's to protect the only person who cares about me for who I am instead of what kind of stupid, useless quirk I have. The only person I care about, who's getting bullied by this God Dmed world because of his quirk. But no, I can't even do that right. I'm weak. I'm so God Dmed weak and I can't even that right. He shouted. Midoriya was trembling. He released Bakugo and reached up to his face, covering his eye. You haven't lost anything before, Kaken. You had everything. A loving family, a perfect quirk, friends. I never had anything like that. The one person I care about, gone. It's the only thing I can do now, trying to find him. So don't try to act like you'll understand me, Kaken. Cause none of you will ever get it. He pushed past Kendo and Shiozaki, before running away from the classroom. What the heck? Bakugo blinked, completely dumbfounded. Must be his little brother. Kirishima pipped up. Bakugo whirled around, staring at Kirishima like he grew a second head. What the F dash? Deku's a single child, shark teeth. He doesn't have a brother. Yamada was walking towards Aizawa's classroom. Apparently, all the kids had decided to check 1A out, and he wanted to talk to Midoriya. His bag was still in the room, so he was probably still in school. A blur raced past him, and when Yamada turned around to tell the person to stop running, he blinked as he recognized the fluffy green hair. Midoriya? A choking sound echoed down the hallway, and Yamada promptly chased him down. But, what are you doing? Where's Midoriya? Aizawa popped out from the staff room. About that? He ran past me and I'm 70% sure he's not okay. Aizawa blinked. He had never seen Midoriya break down before. Sure, he got angry and sad and he felt all over the place, but the 9 months of stress was finally smacking him dead on the head. Where is he now? Not sure. He ran past here. Aizawa groaned. Let's go. They searched the classrooms. They searched everywhere. They couldn't find Midoriya. Until they heard a choking sound coming from the supply cupboard. Aizawa leapt at it, wrenching the door open, only to find Midoriya curled up in a ball, clutched his chest as choking sounds emanated from him. His eyes looked dead. He was shaking all over, and Aizawa just carefully and slowly walked over to him. Midoriya? Go away. Leave me alone. Midoriya rasped. His eyes were red, like he had been crying, but there were no tear tracks. Maybe he just rubbed his eyes a lot. Aizawa carefully scooted closer to him, as Yamada watched from the door. You want to talk about it, problem child? I want to rip my heart out of my chest. It hurts so much. It just hurts. He choked, and Aizawa rubbed his back comfortingly as Midoriya curled in on himself. I'm useless. So utterly useless. My little brother's missing and all I can do is just sit here and cry like an idiot. I really am pathetic. Aizawa had so many words to say to that, but respectfully kept quiet to let Midoriya rant. Everything hurts. I don't want to feel anything anymore. Hey listener. Yamada bent down to get with eye level with Midoriya. You're just a kid. If even we have trouble finding him, there's no way you'll be able to find him either dash. I promised him that if anything happened to him, I'll come save him. And I can't even keep that promise. Midoriya coughed harshly, burying his face in his knees. I'm a disappointment. I'm a failure. I promised to do one thing and I can't even do that right. Hey, calm down. You getting all riled up isn't going to help save him. Aizawa mumbled. He had no idea how to deal with this. Emotions were irrational. I know. He choked. I don't want to feel anything now. I just want Toshi back. Sorry. I'm just wasting time now that we could have used to find Toshi. Nonsense. Midoriya. Shinso wouldn't want you to wear yourself out, would he? That's the problem, Eraserhead. He can't want anything if he's dead. His voice betrayed the absolute desperation he felt, and Midoriya just sounded so absolutely miserable. Aizawa reached over and pulled him in for a hug, wrapping the smaller boy in his arms. Yamada carefully padded over and squeezed himself into the small space created when Aizawa pulled Midoriya away from the wall he was leaning on. Midoriya unconsciously leaned into the source of warmth, and Aizawa cringed when he realized that Midoriya was freaking skinny. What was he eating? I'm pathetic. You're not. We'll find him, alright? Just calm down, Midoriya. Izuku. Yamada and Aizawa blinked. I trust you guys. I told Toshi to trust you too. Yamada wanted to screech internally. He trusted US to use his real name. They were one step closer to actually just adopting them. Find Shinso, and they would be all good, and they could force Midoriya to take more care of himself. Except that was the hard part. They were still clueless about Shinso's whereabouts, and no doubt once Midoriya recovered from this breakdown, he would go back to chasing every single lead he could find until he collapsed again. He had seen the kid pass out in lessons and the police stations way too many times for it to be healthy. Midoriya slowly evened out his breathing. Feel better, kid? Aizawa softly asked. Midoriya slowly nodded. If you feel like you're gonna break down again, just find either of us, okay? Or just ask the teachers to find us. He nodded again.